Good evening and welcome to the with your hosts, MrSniDBitS.
So like two teams with that movie, it seems like either people love it or they hate it. Okay, I do too. I do too.
BlackGirlMarvel.
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tylermakesfilms.
It's meant for us to kind of contemplate. Like, I don't think his response to me is completely appropriate. Like, it makes sense that he would react that way.
Allthemoviethings.
I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective.
The pre-review with Biggie.
The pre-review is where I tell you about upcoming movies coming to movie theaters and beyond.
And me, the real study movie voice guy.
I probably would have been in love with this movie as well if I had watched it earlier, like when it came out, or maybe right after.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Welcome to The Real Study. My name is MrSniDBitS, and with me, as always, is BlackGirlMarvel, but she'll be back in a moment. I think she might be having technical difficulties, but as always, we have all the movie things as well. And Tyler is here in spirit. I know he wanted to come and talk about Thrash on whatever you want to say it.
I know. I really want to hear what he had to say.
I do too, because he's definitely got some opinions about Tarantino.
Yeah, which I think we all kind of do too. It sounds like
it does. It does sound like it.
It'll be interesting.
So we do have the 3 Tarantino films. I would say 2 are the Tarantino films, and then one that is still wildly popular now: Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All directed by and written by Quentin Tarantino.
Yes.
While she still gets her feedback to us, I'll go over social media. So if you have not been following us on social media, now's the time to start. We're on every platform: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, etc. And there she is.
There she is.
And we would love a follow. We have a community built of a ton of movie fans that love to talk about movies, and we'll talk to you about any fandom, etc. You can also come over to our Discord and check that out, which has a variety of conversations happening, as well as information on the movies coming up, as well as your ability to request movies if you want to do that. Something that we do. We, of course, have veto power, but we will honor most requests as long as they're reasonable.
It's rare that we use the veto power.
It's very rare.
Right.
But you know,
I mean,
but it's there.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very warranted when we use it, though. So,
Right.
like if we're using veto power, then it's like serious. We're like, no, we're not doing it.
we
love you, but
we can't do it.
Yeah.
That said, of course, we always have our news segment, and I already went over the social media and the movies since you had a technical issue, but we'll get to
figured by this conversation that
for sure
having.
I just wanted to catch you up, and so we are going to do
I'm
the
a
news.
good deducer.
You are. That is absolutely true. We'll be back.
Now it's time for the real news.
And this week we have a huge piece of movie news. SAG, of course, did vote to have a strike, and that was this morning that happened.
Strike it up, man.
There's other big news, but I don't think this show is for that. You'll probably catch it on every other channel ever, and that's the most we're going to mention of that news.
For sure.
Not that we're not all aware of it. That said, we've got the regular movie news that's coming in here. SAG, of course, we'll see what kind of an effect this has on any movie that is being planned for the next indefinite time.
Right.
Brian, do you want to touch on this? I know that you are not a part of SAG, but you know people that are part of SAG and work in SAG.
Yeah, and I try to follow some of that stuff. Now, is it? I believe it's just strike authorization, correct?
Right. That's all it is.
They voted for yeah.
Right.
So they're not going on strike just yet,
right?
But they've authorized the strike. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because sometimes people will jump right out and be like, "They're going on strike." It's like, no, not strike yet. Like they don't have picket signs yet. They're just saying, hey, when the time comes, we're ready to roll and strike, which is great. I think that's going to help get the Writers Guild strike, which is going on like week 5 or 6 now, which is pretty long. And I think from what I've heard from some of the other writers is that they're thinking it's going to go even longer if it's gone this long already. So, which is sad. But hopefully with this strike, it's going to get both of these, negotiations going. The interesting thing too, there was a DGA kind of agreement that came up, and it sounded like, from what I heard and what I read briefly, that they weren't going to authorize to go on strike.
Oh wow.
That it sounded like they were going to, which is weird. I think a lot of the other guilds were thinking like, oh, the DGA was going to for sure also authorize a strike. So that's something a little different there. So, but I think with these two, it'll, I think it should speed things along. So we'll see. But
well, there's definitely that amount of solidarity. So they're at least saying, "Hey, we understand, and we agree. The industry needs to change." So that's
and a lot
really
of, there's a lot of crossover too. So a lot of there are a few actors who are WGA members as well, and a lot of actors just out there supporting on the picket lines, and you see them. So, so hopefully it'll get going. But there's already a bunch of delays for things right now, and some interesting stuff like the Deadpool 3 thing is an odd situation. I feel like they should just kind of halt production, but
Agreed.
I think they should do that across the board just to make sure.
Right.
It'll help the production itself will not suffer. It'll suffer from being paused, but it won't suffer from just kind of
quality
piecemealing it together or whatever they have to do. Or if it's finishing up. There's a lot of weird TV shows that are in weird limbo. Like Young Sheldon was going into its final season when all of this went down. So we may never even see that if this keeps up, which is we understand. It's just interesting the landscape and how it changes. I mean, we all know the Heroes debacle, of the 2000s, when Heroes
and Lost too.
Lost was another one.
Got really affected. It was like season 4 or 5, I think.
Right, which is where it started
really
to
weird
tank.
Season.
Yeah. It was basically people that had nothing to do with it. We're just like, well, right in from the margins. What are we gonna do here?
Right.
Or something. But it's wild. Hopefully it all gets worked out in the favor of actors and writers, etc., because we want to see this industry thrive, but we want to see it thrive fairly for those involved. Let's see. Captain America is now no longer called the New World Order. It's now Brave New World. I think everybody agrees that's a good move, Marvel. We didn't need New World Order in many titles, I don't think. That gets into a lot of personal things and political things, but there are people that were not happy with that choice.
Right.
We got Snyder making more movies for Netflix. All right. Rebel Moon, apparently it's going to be 4 films, possibly. Two-parters.
Interesting.
We'll see what that is. Prime's going to start doing commercials. Yay.
Oh no.
So you'll have to pay more if you don't want them.
Come on.
I feel like every streaming thing does that. They all do that.
Yeah.
So
and it's just going to get worse.
But I say this, Disney, you make too much money. Don't you ever do that in your life.
There's so much that they make.
Okay. Disney, you make enough money. I get Amazon. I get HBO.
So much too.
No, I know they do, but I just feel like they're so behind on the streaming stuff. But not really to me personally, because I watch them more than I watch a lot of other stuff. Mm-hmm. But they're just trying to make their way. They're trying to make their way. Yeah. Disney, don't you ever HBO Max or Max, whatever, don't you ever. You make so much money off of these shoddy movies. You don't need to be charging us ads.
You mentioned Max Law. I want to bring this up. So they just changed the name at the end of May. And then right at the beginning of June, some of their biggest shows have their 25th anniversary and they aren't calling it HBO anymore. And I'm like, you guys could have waited another month and let that ruminate with people, because they see Max and they don't see HBO necessarily related. I still think Cinemax when I hear Max,
so
but
I know I still call it HBO Max.
I still call it HBO Max too.
Right.
I really do. You know what they should do? They should make Max big, but then put a little bitty HBO.
Right. Or all the little bits that they have, make them part of.
They tried incorporating a similar, how the O is. It's got the the circle and the O right there. They try to incorporate that into the A of Max, which still doesn't it doesn't. I mean,
just put all the companies you own into the word as words to make the word Max, and then we'll know the 50 corporations you own.
Yeah. And like then they had to change it to blue,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know.
like every other
And it's
app.
whose blue is the best blue?
Yeah,
though?
it's like
That's the question.
like
That's another thing too. That's all it looks like. It looks like Disney. It looks like Disney Plus.
yeah, they're
It
all
just say
Disney.
it looks
Like,
like
they're all-
Disney Plus because they all say Plus. Whenever somebody
Yeah.
does like whatever Plus, I'm like AMC Plus or whatever Plus. I'm
Right.
just like Disney had Paramount Plus. I'm like Disney had it first. Like just why
So-
would you?
Should we turn the
What's
real
the
study
plus?
blue then? I mean,
might as well.
Might as well jump on a
it might get
bandwagon.
us more viewers.
It
People
can't
are like, oh,
help
blue.
motherfuckers.
Yeah,
It
maybe
can't
like a
help
more
us.
like navy blue. Like a
Ooh,
darker.
ooh.
They might be like, "Oh, we thought you were a part of HBO." He was like, "We love that you thought."
Like, yeah, there you go.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please have at thinking that. You can think
Real
we're
Study Plus.
any of the blue apps. Think of us as any of those.
Yeah.
You're good.
No, for sure.
We'll take it. Let's
I want us to
see.
be affiliated with Tubi so bad though. I don't know.
Tubi would be great. That wouldn't be terrible. Tubi, please listen to us. Second installment of Fast X trilogy is now expected to land in April of 2025. I heard a great
Oof.
fan theory about the Fast and the Furious franchise. I've never heard this before, so if you have, pardon me, but apparently Dom was supposed to have actually been hit by the train in the first film, and everything since is a fever dream while he's in the hospital.
That's
oh god, I hate that.
I hate
also,
it, but it works.
it's funny.
You know, it works.
Because there's like that's like a writing like red
Yeah.
flag.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, it was all a dream, or it was all aliens, or like
Yeah.
whatever it is, like the little, Deus Ex Machina
Actually,
thing.
I actually
like,
did that in a
not.
story. I actually did that in a story that I wrote. So like, and it's like, it's like chapter whatever, and it's the title, and then I do the thing, and then the next chapter is like the same title, but it says revisited. So like it's like essentially, but I feel like I did it a little bit better. I could be too hard, but I feel like I did it a little bit better because
Yeah.
it was a dream, but it's like it actually happened in her brain because she got conditioned, and it was the conditioning trying to stop her from like finding out the truth and breaking free from her conditioning. So like
Right.
what she got like electrocuted, and then like what happened to her throughout that isn't real, but it's actually happening in her brain, and she's in the hospital, and then she finally breaks free and she wakes up in the hospital. But I feel like I did it better because it wasn't like a Twilight thing where like the battle happened and then it just erases everything. It actually happened in her brain. You just see it from a different angle.
Have you guys? I don't know the name of the TV show. Maybe it was St. Elmo's Fire, but there's an episode I think of St. Elmo's Fire
St.
where
Elmo's
the
Fire.
kid has a dream, and that dream links all media ever into one universe. You guys should look this theory
St.
up.
Elmo's Fire.
Maybe it's not St. Elmo's Fire, but it's
Yeah, that's a
something.
movie. From
That
the
is a
80s.
movie. That's right.
Yeah,
There's
it's not St. Elmo's Fire.
I'm gonna remember the name of the thing, and I will
like,
tell you
that's
guys even if it's after the
like,
show.
that
but
is
Also,
it's-
an old hospital show.
Scene? I was like,
Right, and I was like, what?
it's like that's pretty dope. Where you get
But
that from?
I'll get that to you guys.
I was
later.
There's
like,
also
okay.
Saint Elsewhere, which is a medical
Yeah.
drama.
That's what it
show.
was. Saint Elsewhere. That's
Saint
what it was.
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere?
I knew
Oh,
it was
okay.
Saint
Elsewhere,
something.
okay.
And
Yeah,
a
I just watched
kid
that.
has dreams in the show,
Young
and those
Denzel.
dreams relate to basically, if you interpret it right, all media ever is like part of his dream, which is
Oh.
kind of interesting.
I'm curious to see how that works. What episode's that?
You'll have to look into it. I like I said, I don't have the
Yeah.
details right here,
I
but
don't even
it's
know if they even stream Saint Elsewhere.
Why not?
Something to
Steve?
look
You
up.
should always have the details up here. Okay?
if I
That's what
could,
you-
I would, but I'm middle-aged
I know.
human at this point.
How
So
dare.
well,
It's
the
okay.
brain starts to go a little.
The
Okay,
brain's
so
amazing.
we've got Leprechaun, the longest running franchise in Lionsgate history, is going to get a fresh start. If they don't put Warwick Davis in it some way, how, like, make him the first victim, I don't care. But if he's not in it, I'm going to be a little bummed, considering he
Honestly,
was in
I
every
think it
movie.
should be. I think it should be a mentorship. He should be passing the Lucky Charms, and he should be like he should have an apprentice. It should be like a dark Batman type of thing. Where he has an apprentice and he teaches them how to like terrorize people.
I
if they
think Jennifer
still
Aniston
try
should
to
have a
go.
cameo.
I think
Yes,
the
that would be
child
great.
should be. I think whoever they're chasing after, because 9 times out of 10, it gotta be a pretty woman with shorts on. Like it should be the daughter of Jennifer Aniston. It should be
Yeah.
like it should be him realizing that maybe a piece of gold stuck to her or something like that, and he can now sense it or something. And the daughter put it in like a necklace or something, and now they're after the daughter.
It's like
this is his.
An Apple AirTag.
Yeah.
That's what.
A magical apple
That's what
AirTag.
pieces of gold are. Is it? Yeah, it's like.
I'm just saying it should be like maybe the mom thought it was small enough. Like maybe she just found it. Like the mom had it like stashed somewhere, and the daughter found it and put it into like a ring or a necklace or earrings, stuff like that. Not knowing what she unleashed.
Gotcha.
You know, because maybe he couldn't sense it until the daughter touched it.
Right.
And now the son is the second generation, so maybe he can feel it because the father is like old and stuff like that. So maybe the son can feel it. I'm telling you, let me write it, y'all.
Write it. I want to hear it.
Let me in.
So my wife and I have always been Big Bang Theory fans. Just, you know, it's
same
ridiculous
Same.
show, and it's cringy in moments,
we'll
but
have
whatever. It's great.
weekends where we watch it. We'll have weekends where we watch it.
So this is the movie, the show that we put on all the time, no matter what. So she sat down and wrote a fan episode about what we would see after the last episode, where they're back at the apartment and they're all moving out. Like, I gotta let you guys read it, because if you guys are fans, you're gonna go, holy
I like Big Bang.
shit.
Big Bang Theory for a long time was my comfort show. It was my comfort show. It was the show that I put on all the time, watch all the seasons back to back to back to back. So I want to hear that. Betsy, wherever you are, give it to me.
I will make sure. I don't know if she's watching right now because she's with the kids, but and she's not a Tarantino fan, so she's not gonna. She dials in when we've got movies she wants to talk about.
Nice.
Respect.
So let's see. Is there any more news? There's always a little more news. We've got Bryan Cranston stepping down in 2 years from acting. You were gonna say, Brian?
Oh, I was gonna talk about Superman Legacy.
Yes, please.
Like they've narrowed Lois and Superman down to 3, and then those 3 are like gonna be doing screen tests. Like I think like the middle of June. They're gonna be doing much different testing for them. So
I'm excited because I think Gunn is actually going to give me the Superman and the Supergirl that I've always wanted.
I think it'll be super.
And
cool.
we're going to see like actual
I can't
Kal-El and Kara together doing their thing. I can't wait. So
I can't wait for whatever James Gunn and Co has in store. Like I'm here for it, man.
I think he'll know how to
like
dial it back.
All the actors
right?
look great.
Right. I think he'll dial it back when it's time to do Superman.
Yeah,
he'll know
he'll
when to not do James Gunn.
The age range for Superman, they specifically said late 20s, early 30s.
So they can have years to
like Nicholas Hoult is one of those 3 that's in the running. And then but the other 2 actors almost like look comic book accurate.
Wow.
To Superman.
Just throw the curly Q on him.
This is no offense to Nicholas Hoult, but I would rather go with the other 2 because I don't think you know their names.
They're like lesser known.
So I like the fact that you don't know their names, and I think and I will say this because it's Tarantino week. I will say this: I would want superhero films now to start making celebrities instead of taking them. So like if you can make this film and you can make a celebrity, regardless of what he's done, I'm kind of here for that. You know what I mean?
And then what's funny too is like that's kind of been like a thing with Superman. Like no one really knew who Christopher Reeve was.
Right.
No one really knew.
Well, he was a play actor.
Henry Cavill
did. Like he had done a bunch of play. He was a play actor, Reeves.
Yeah, he did a lot of plays. He was a theater guy.
Same thing with
and Henry
Brandon
Cavill
Routh.
wasn't.
Nobody knew who Brandon Routh was.
Yeah, no one knew who Brandon Routh was, and like Henry Cavill was relatively unknown. Even Dean Cain wasn't really.
I was literally trying to find his name in my brain.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian.
I don't talk about Dean Cain.
I would argue that Dean Cain and Brandon Routh are still not well known, but you know, we can.
Yeah, I know. And Dean Cain is like
Brandon Routh is
questionable politics
because of Legends of Tomorrow and stuff like that. Like
I love Brandon Routh.
No, he's great.
He's got no resurgence. I like Superman Returns. That was one of my favorites.
I know, I did too.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was a big homage to Richard Donner.
Right. Okay. Parker Posey, I was weeping.
And if people's biggest complaint was, oh, he throws a plane. I'm like, so what? It's Superman. Does it have to always have to be this like perfect villain like showdown? Like, no, it didn't have to be.
By running circles around Earth, he can't throw a planet.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Like,
it felt
especially when it's based on Richard Donner stuff too.
Right.
Like he was doing
it's the same Superman essentially.
He was doing like those like fantastical overly comic booky things. And
so exactly. It was fun.
Stop it. That's not even how time travel works. Just running around.
No.
But that
was it's also and like and Superman Returns was like if Superman 3 and 4 didn't exist,
right?
Then Superman Returns was like
I actually
fun.
like 3. I think people hate me for that.
I do too. It's
It's
like
Pryor is hilarious in it.
Which one is
Richard
3
Pryor.
the one with the? No, okay, 90 is Richard Pryor, but is that the?
and he gets drunk.
What are the villains? Are the villains the
The
people that
villains,
was in, like,
basically
a
like the
gold man?
cheap.
Was it a sun man?
No, that's 4.
No, that was 4.
So
That's
this one
4,
is
okay.
the like rich guy who decides to create a computer because
The
of
different Lex
Richard
Luthor.
Pryor's. Yeah, the alternate Lex Luthor who becomes sort of Brainiac. Like it's a little bit
right.
above.
He has like
Okay.
he makes this supercomputer.
Right.
And
I
Richard.
all of the Superman films. But I
Yeah.
will say the one that looked like Adam Warlock when he came
Right.
in,
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that one very much.
Well,
I remember being a
it's-
kid and being like, whenever that came on like TBS or TNT,
That's
I was like,
yeah.
So
Yep.
I think that Superman 4 would have been fine if they let the actor play himself and have his own voice, but they dubbed over Gene Hackman's
man, I
voice
know.
to give him this like
Superman.
I'm the bad guy because he has my
Yeah.
DNA, and so like
Yeah.
it was dubbed over. It sounded cheesy.
So
The
funny.
nails, he's like I have super radio
Oh man,
active
the
nails,
like,
like
when they would come out too, it was like totally like this, like
sparks
fake-looking
and
hand with the,
crap,
like,
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I've seen them all
But
dozens of
I need
times.
to-
Oh
but-
yeah.
What I need to do is I need to go back and start rewatching these franchises. I believe I talked to Lieutenant Commander Ray. Like I wanted to rewatch like the Fantastic Four. I already watched the first one. I was like, this ain't half bad. But like I wanted to
It's
go
good.
back and rewatch like Fast and the Furious. Like I really think we need to go back and really give Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer just a little bit more leeway because those no, I'm saying both of them.
I have a problem with the second one only
Breathe.
because
I know you do.
Galactus is a smoky whatever. Like
Yeah.
their
Yeah, I
power
know.
switching, I didn't mind because that's straight out of the comics. Like
I know, but what
some
I'm
fun
what I'm
stuff, but,
saying
man.
is, but what I'm saying is, for the first kind of like go into comic book, like from comic book to like film, I really feel like because like when X-Men came out, everybody was like, what kind of swill were they giving us with the Fantastic Four? And I'm just like, we treated Fantastic Four really bad. They gave us some
I
nice
understood their
entertainment.
approach, why they did it too.
they made it a
Yeah.
I was
comic book
very
movie.
worried that a broad audience wasn't going to accept this giant, basically alien dude
I know.
that literally would just like gnaw on a plant like an apple. You know what I mean? Like, so they had to create this other thing that made it more believable.
Agreed.
Even though you got Silver Surfer,
Even
was
though you got
crazy.
Silver Surfer just flying on,
Yeah, doing his
somebody
thing.
could say flame on.
She was
and say
amazing.
the
She was really cool.
you
Yeah.
know. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really because just watching the first one, I was like, I'm not mad at this film. Like it's not.
I
that
actually
bad.
think it's
Yeah,
more
I know.
comic book fun like than the
It
X-Men
is.
movies. The X-Men movies,
It
they were like,
is.
we're gonna take all the comic book stuff and
Dark.
strip it away. We're gonna put black leather on everyone, and
Yeah.
it's really just Wolverine's story. So here you go.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'm
so
just
funny.
like, oh, I mean, it was fun. I was
Yeah.
happy.
Right.
But
Oh,
as soon
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic Four came in, I was like, oh, they're like really them. It's them. Look at that.
Yeah.
And even Doctor Doom was over the top, and I'm like, yeah. And I love the guy, from Charmed that they got to play him.
Yeah.
Julian
yes.
McMahon. Listen,
McMahon. I love that dude as Doom.
I
Like,
love
love him.
me some Julian McMahon. The first time I saw him as Cole on Charmed,
Balthazar.
I was like, he's evil. That's the first thing I said because I knew it immediately because he just had something about him.
Mhm.
But as he kept going, I was like, this dude is a phenomenal actor. Like it's
Was he
just
on Nick
certain.
Tuck also?
He was on Nick Tuck
Yes.
as well.
He
Yeah.
wasn't a good guy.
That TV
No.
show was wild.
He plays a bad guy very, very, very well. Like
He
very well.
does.
Yeah.
But he also plays a guy. I don't want to even just say a bad guy because bad people never think they're bad. But like I feel like he plays really messed up people very well. Like people that has more than one layer to them. Like
Right.
because his character from Charm was like half human, half demon, and it was only because like he was more so on the demon side of everything. And then when he met Phoebe, it was like, oh snap, I do got some human like feelings. He plays that like dynamic so well
Very
that
well.
you honestly believe this guy. And then the same thing happens in Nip Tuck. Like he has a secret that like he don't know the secret. Something's been keeping from him for a long time because of some dirt he did. So he's been flip-flopping as like a really good friend, a really bad friend, and he plays it so well. That show is so good. They kind of got like they jumped the shark a little bit towards the end, but I still enjoyed that
Right.
that show.
That
Good
show understood its assignment that it was about witches and it was about selling the
Yes.
music they wanted to put in the show all the time. Because that's what that show did half the time. Just like Buffy, it was always about the music that they would put in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's why both of them had clubs in them, and it was very common, I think, on all those types
But
of shows.
that's what I loved about the WB back in the day. and I kind of missed this because the CW kind of like erased this a little bit because they were like, we're gonna do teens and we're gonna be older, broaden our audience, and I'm just like, make it for the people that's been watching it since they were like kids, because that's the people that.
But you're supposed to move on to other channels, don't you know?
No, thank you. Because if you're dropping my superhero stuff and my supernatural stuff, where else am I gonna go?
No, I know, I agree.
That. But I love the thing that WB used to do is the WB used to promote music really, really heavy in these shows. And every show somewhere in their like third or fourth season would somehow get a club location, or like they would go to
some band coming,
some type of band or something.
Yeah, that was popular. Like,
and then eventually they just started getting like A-list stars to come like of the time to come like do this. So like if you,
but it was always, I mean, think about it. Well,
are time capsules.
Charmed at least was in San Francisco, so it made sense. But with Buffy, it made no sense because it's a rinky-dink little town out of the valley. Like it didn't really make sense. It was much more like Ventura. You know?
It kind of made sense simply because it was like the slums of like California for the most part. Because like
but
it was
Sunnydale
nice.
Has slums is funny though.
It's really not. But like Sunnydale's nice, but it's really not nice because you can't be too nice.
No, I mean in Southern California you deal with a lot of violence still, regardless of what town you're living in. Like it's everywhere.
For sure. So. But I'm talking about the supernatural element. I feel like so much stuff is drawn to Sunnydale that to me.
So you're saying the rockers were like, oh, there's evil there, we gotta go play.
I really feel like they were because they were all like, you every now and again you got like a floaty type of singer that's like,
oh, that was totally Buffy,
every now and again you got like a floaty singer like that. But 9 times out of 10 it was like the built-in band Dingoes Ate My Babies, or like some weird like band that you were like, they would play in a hole like this.
I think that's like a sign of that era of television.
Yeah.
Too, was like, and with that specific like demographic, like the audience was definitely skewed younger. You know, I mean, like Smallville did the same thing. Smallville was exactly the same. Like, you know, and they would have. I mean, I think they literally brought in the band. I think it's called Remy Zero, which they're the ones that did the theme song to Smallville. Yeah, so I think they had Remy Zero come in one episode.
They did, and that's when Lana ended up like taking over the cafe or whatever, and they was able to
yeah, they had that little stage in the cafe. Yeah.
Cafe, because she became like, she fought for it, and she's the landlord. My God, listen, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna stop talking about the WB because I can talk about the WB all day. The CW,
that's what this section of the show's for. Please have
listen. I can rip on them, but like I was so obsessed with Smallville growing up. I love this show so much that so back in the days of DVRs, I'm pretty sure they still have them, but I no longer do. But I had to record Smallville because I had to go to school the next day and I couldn't stay up and watch it because I was so messed up. So I recorded I learned, and you used to do like TiVo DVR, you had to do like an hour after just to make sure you caught it all because it cuts off sometimes at a certain time.
Oh no, there was always like the 3 minutes. If you didn't do the 3 minutes, you'd lose the end of the show.
Yeah, because it's something about how the show clicks off, because like TV, it is because TV always go over like a few minutes.
I think it was the channel.
The show was like
more than it was anything, because some channels would do it and other channels wouldn't.
Worked. No, that's very, very true. But I feel like mine just didn't work.
You had like the double badge.
You had a workaround.
Right. I had to so I figured out that I always had to go like at least I would go like 15 minutes past the time that the show said it would end, just so I can make sure I got like all the extra goodies. Because sometimes they will put stuff at the end that you're like, and this was like before social media, so I couldn't go on YouTube and look up to see what I missed. So I was just like out until another week passed or whatever. But I love Smallville so much that when it ended, I recorded on my DVR. I didn't watch it for like almost a year. I didn't watch the last episode
because you wanted it to last.
Because I wanted it to keep going. I was so hurt that show ended. My friend was like, "Did you watch it?" I'm like, "Nah, I can't even do it." I couldn't pull myself. I've been with that show for 10 years, right? And not before that. Charm lasted for like 8 years, and they started in 98. I've been with that show since it I was like, I can't watch. I was like spazzing out, but I finally watched it and it was amazing because I knew he was never going to like fly because the creator Ben said that at the beginning, like the first season, he was like, "You'll never
no tights,
see
no
him."
flights. That was their.
That was his policy.
Strange.
That was his policy. He said,
"No bat, no alley." Like it seems kind of odd.
Well, and they had a workaround though. They had a little thing though. Whenever he was on like Red Kryptonite, he would fly though, but technically he wasn't Clark in his right mind. So he would, because there were episodes when he'd have Red Kryptonite, and he was affected, and so he would fly then.
So they found workarounds, but
yeah,
Clark
but not
Kent
as,
I never
himself-
watched
Right mind,
Smallville because I
Yeah.
couldn't stand
Oh,
the
I
idea
loved it.
of taking the two main parts of Superman away from him. Like I was like, what are you doing? Like,
well, the
because
thing is,
it
it's
wasn't
like,
about Superman.
yeah,
He
it wasn't about
Superman.
Superman.
but
It's
then
like,
why
It
is
was-
Lex
it's-
Luthor on the show? That makes no sense. He doesn't meet him until he goes to Metropolis. Like there are
It's
so many
literally-
things
But
they've changed.
that's the beauty of the show, though, is that they play with the mythos and like this,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
well, what if all this stuff does happen? Like maybe Lex
What if they
did,
met?
like,
What if they met?
meet him
What
a
if?
long
What
time
if?
ago, but
Because Lex ended up getting affected by his ship coming
Yeah.
in too. The reason
Yeah.
why he's bald is because he got clipped by that ship, like by like the
Yeah,
like
and,
by
like,
the
the- everything, like,
meteorite,
yeah.
like the meteorites or whatever.
What?
When Clark came down,
so that's
that's
the
the
big
reason
thing
why-
about the show
yeah.
was like a lot of pieces of Krypton came to Earth,
yeah,
little fragments of Krypton.
Is that where the Justice
Yeah.
League ends up
With his-
coming from because of that? Because I know they're on the show. They end up like in season 8 or 9 or whatever. They show up.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and the thing is too, like in the first season at least, it was like a creature of the week kind of thing.
Mhm.
That
Oh, okay.
somehow someone would get affected by kryptonite, or
Yeah.
like different, like in different forms, like
So it's like X-Files and
a little, yeah,
Superman
yeah,
kind
it
of
was-
shoved together.
yeah. It was like, yeah, it was ridiculous.
because what did they?
you know,
what
but-
did Chloe? Chloe called them something like meta.
Oh yeah, what did she call them?
He called them something.
Yeah,
She called them something because they were infected pretty much by kryptonite. They were infected
yeah,
by kryptonite.
it was all like basically
And then it was like some kryptonite was buried deeper, so it changed colors, which is how we got
Yeah.
the blue stuff, the reds. It was like a whole thing.
I mean,
But
okay,
honestly, I
but-
think because and they end up bringing it into the series because you find out that like when they started making like the Arrowverse, which I'm still mad at that, but then when they started making the Arrowverse, they started connecting the worlds and they brought Smallville as like a multiversal world, like it was
Yeah.
another Earth.
Hmm.
So like
yeah. They should go talk to
and-
Clark.
right, they go talk to
from
Clark.
Smallville. The
Wait,
show.
so Tom Wellington
Yeah.
shows up on?
yeah, Tom.
I didn't
Welling
know
came
that.
back for it.
Yeah, he
Interesting.
comes back for it,
Yeah.
and you find out that he like spoiler alert. You find out he like gives
Yeah,
up
he-
his powers.
yeah,
that
he
he's-
gave up his powers.
He gave us his powers,
Yeah.
and Lex
Lois?
was pissed. He
Kind
was
of like
like,
Superman too. Yeah,
Probably for
I
Lois.
mean, not just for Lois, but I think for his family too, because he had two boys, and he
Oh,
like
wow.
he just wanted to live a normal life. And I think stuff around Metropolis was like smooth out, like he didn't need. plus it's, like,
Batman
other-
succeeded, is what I would say. Batman
right.
pulled
Well,
it
and
off.
John
you know.
Cryer's Lex in
Yeah,
that
John Cryer's
multiverse
Lex
one, which is
Luthor,
a funny connection.
Oh, what?
'cause
What?
He's in Superman 4.
Right. So the other weird connection, this is the weirdest one for me, is that his mom is actually his girlfriend in Superman 3. I'm just
Exactly.
like,
yeah.
what?
I know.
That's
she played
weird.
Lana. I know. I
Right.
love that.
And she was
yeah.
great in 3. She was one of the
Yeah.
things I like
She was
about that.
great.
To me, Smallville is more so about learning about Clark than it is learning about him become. It's still about him becoming like a superhero, and
So it's how he becomes
eventually
the Superman we
Yeah, it's
know.
basically foreshadowing like how he's
it's
going to use
foreshadowing like essentially like
How he
goes
can
to
be the Boy
future
Scout, how he
sometimes.
can always be resilient,
Exactly.
how he can
And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
and it shows you like his trials and tribulations of growing up, which is why I
how
liked
important
it.
his parents were.
How important his parents was, how important his
Does
friendship
Jonathan
was.
die in this series?
Yeah,
Eventually.
Oh my God.
Okay, good.
Eventually, but yeah.
Does he die of a heart
Wrecked me.
attack?
That episode like wrecked me.
Oh no,
he-
it's through.
I think it is a heart attack
Good.
because
I think
like
it's a heart attack that is induced by like danger or something like
exactly,
that.
yeah, and they like tweak it a little bit, but it's still like a heart attack. But
Something
man,
out
that
of his
episode-
Man,
control. That's what
yeah.
bothers me about
Yeah,
Man
it
of
was. There was
Steel,
something
That's what
is
it
that it's
was.
not out of his
Was.
control.
Yeah, and
So-
it was like
It is in Man of Steel.
It's
I'm
so
always
sad.
fight you on that. I'm gonna always fight you on
We
that.
need to have
It kinda-
Like
It
Reckon.
kind of is.
a
I'm gonna always fight you on
DC,
that.
like at least like we should do Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and then the 4-hour Justice League as an episode on the show, so that we can
actually
discuss
sell out
these.
as a box set.
Do they really? Because I've never watched them in sequence, and I would be willing to watch it only if we talked
Honestly,
about it on this show. As far as the 4-hour
I'm here
Justice
for
League.
it. I'm here for it. Honestly, I feel like this is something we could do like the last week of summer or
Right.
something. And
The
that could be,
closeout
like, our
show.
first episode. Right. That could be like our first episode come back in or something like that. Or
Right.
however, I don't care however it is, but this would give us a time to watch it. Because I said I'd never watch that 4-hour monstrosity ever again. I'm only saying this a monstrosity because it's 4 hours. There are great moments in it, but it was stupid long. So I said I would
Well-
never watch that again. But if we're watching it for the show,
Why
It
don't
didn't feel
we?
4 hours to me, but
Why don't we
I was
do?
drowning, man. I was
I'm
drowning.
gonna- I'll make an executive call and do it like this. It'll be the first 2 episodes of the show when we come back. That way, The Flash will have released, and we can discuss Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman,
Yeah.
and then Justice League and The Flash. 2 separate episodes back to back.
yeah, because I watched The Flash.
That's a lot of content, is what I'm saying. Like the 4-hour movie
I
alone
can't.
is
You
a
know what's
lot.
crazy? I've seen it and y'all haven't seen it. I think it's amazing.
The Flash?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I won't see it until it comes out to Max. That's why. So
Yeah.
I saw it in the screening. I got a free screening for it.
Oh,
so I
that's
went
right.
to go
You did
it.
see it already. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
My
So
daughter's
I can't wait
trying
for
to.
you guys to see
My
it.
daughter's trying to break in. She's like she
I'm
wants to
not
go to the
seeing it
show.
until it comes to streaming.
I love
Yeah,
that so
I'm not
much
either.
that she's
I
trying
am
to
gonna
break in.
watch it, but I'm waiting till streaming.
I can't wait till it comes. I need y'all to watch it on streaming too. I won't watch it a second time until I see it on streaming, so I can see how they change parts
like,
because they said right. Because I mean, I didn't pay for it the first time. I refused, and I don't even pay for Max, so I'm not paying across the board. But I want to see if there's difference in what they showed us into what they theatrically re-released. So
Right.
Well, I'm hoping they change
yeah,
nothing because
yeah.
I do want to see what they release. But you know, I like
Well,
when they
they
at least
said
release
that-
both. So
they said that kind of during the thing. They were like, the producers came on the screen and was like, the film that you're going to watch today, you know, it's not the full theatrical version. So there are still some
I'm sure
things
it's
that they
minor
left
tweaks by
out.
then.
I feel like it's minor tweaks. I just like y'all just want
There's only so much they could do
y'all want our money, so I get
Yeah.
it.
at
I
that
get it.
time. Yeah.
with that said, we have some movies we're going to review, and I do really want to hear what
Oh,
Law
yeah.
has to say about these movies. First movie this
Ooh.
evening we're going to talk about is Reservoir Dogs. This is technically Quentin Tarantino's first film as a director. He had done other things prior to this, and of course, film school, all
You
of
can
that good
tell.
stuff. But this is his like major debut. This has, even for the time, the cast is fairly well known. Michael Madsen,
Yep.
Harvey Keitel both had thriving careers at the time. Tim Roth was still new on the scene, I think, at that point, but Steve Buscemi had been around. So it was a hodgepodge. Now they're all, you look at them, and the only people that aren't iconic in this film would be Mr. Blue. I don't recognize him, but that's about it. Everybody else
Yeah.
has been around. Since Law has not seen this film, I would love to start with Law and just get her take and go from there. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So I can't really put it into words. I won't say this wasn't a bad film at all. I won't say it was a bad film. I don't understand the hype around it, but maybe because it was like 92 and people were like, you know, Tarantino has a tendency to pull from other creators and switch it up just enough that it's like, this reminds me of this, but it seems like it's Quentin Tarantino all along. So it's like, he has a tendency.
He has like admitted that he did like literally like rip something off for this film. Actually. Yeah.
So
even the characters' names of the colors, like
the
he took
colors?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, he took that from something else.
Because that's kind of like what it seems like. Mind you, I can't go into too much about like what that is, but I will say this: I understand why it's a cult classic because it's so different than what you would see during that time, especially with like
It's playing with like non-linear stuff.
Like timeline and stuff like that, which is what he does. Which is so all these films was like classic Tarantino. It shows you like. Because it goes from like 92 to like 97 or 4 and
94
then like to
and then 2018.
So 92 to 94 to 2018, and it shows you that he really ain't changed up. But he really ain't changed up his style, you know. Like he barely changed the actors, we being honest. But I fell asleep a couple times during this movie, but then I would reawaken and realize I didn't miss anything.
This is the shorter one of the three, I think.
Yeah, it's the shortest. Yeah.
But it felt like the longest. Being honest, I will say this: all in all, I think every actor did amazing. I like I told Smitty before the show started, it made me miss Harvey Keitel as an actor. So I was like, I need to go back and like just soak up all his stuff because I think he's in a new. I read that he's in the new National Treasure TV show that's on Disney Plus because he was in the movies. So I was like, well, maybe I should take out the TV show because I just want to see him act, because this made me realize how much I liked his acting. His acting is very like infectious. Because when he was like weeping over Tim Roth's body, I was like, oh my God, he's going to do something. He's going to kill himself or both of them. Like I could feel his like, I threw my life away for this kid. I get like type of thing. So like, I like that it wasn't so much about the crime. It was more so about the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I do like that. Like it was like, it was like you watching a heist, but from the views of the people. You don't even see the heist really. Like you kind of do, and then you see like what happens after. So I do. the thing about Quentin Tarantino that I do like, I like the way he tells a story. I really do, even though it's like still the same. Like he still does that. Like I'm gonna show you this thing that happened last, but we're gonna go back up to this thing that ends you to the first part of the movie. Like he does it a lot, but I actually enjoy it because a lot of people don't do it. So when he only comes out with a movie every how many years?
Couple of years. It's not very often. He's
right. It's not very
Once
often.
Upon a Time is his ninth
like,
film.
Ninth one,
right.
yeah.
So when he comes out with stuff like that, I'm like, that's refreshing. Even though he does it like every movie.
He is the Grand Theft Auto of the movie world.
No, he is. And here's the thing. That's fine. But for me, Reservoir Dogs was simply an okay film. The acting the acting puts it as like a tops type of deal. Not so much like the storyline or anything like that for me. I enjoy Tim Roth as an actor, so to see him kind of like star in something or like really get like his just due in a way, even though it's very early from what we see him you know, throughout his years. But he's mad that I don't like Reservoir Dogs. But it was an okay film. I figure I might have to like go back in and rewatch this, but it won't be no time soon.
All right.
But I enjoyed it. I cracked up towards the end. Like, no, that was another movie. Never mind. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, whoa.
Nope.
Brian, I assume you saw this film.
I was very sad towards it. Like, I'm not sad, but I felt his disappointment in those last
his
moments.
loss.
I felt his because he lost everything. Like to me, that was a really messed up scene, and I feel like Tim Roth's character was like, "I'm gonna die anyway, so I'm a cop." I was like, "Why did you tell him? He has a."
I think he got cold in that moment and decided to tell him.
He probably did. He was like, "Let me just tell him I'm gonna die anyway," because he's been bleeding out for hours.
Yeah. And a lot of blood.
He didn't know when he was dying.
Right.
Yeah.
If he survived, it might have not been great. Brian, I'm assuming you saw this movie
that was wild
when it came out.
Oh yeah, I've seen this like
numerous times.
Yeah, many times. Yeah, it's like one of my. I don't have many favorites of Tarantino's, but this is one of my favorites of his. I own it. I own the cool Lionsgate one that has the cool slipcover with the ear. Yeah, this is like, and it is interesting. Like it's been a while since I've seen it. And the thing that kept coming, and I'll talk about it in Pulp Fiction too. When we talk about Pulp Fiction, but like I still like this movie. I still really like it. And just how, like Law mentioned, how he tells the story. And I think there's something to be said about the editing and the editor that he has, Sally Menke. He specifically wanted to get a woman to edit his films. And I think he's used her with all of them because I know she was in Pulp Fiction. I don't remember if she was on Once Upon a Time, but so I think that's like an asset that he's used. And she's talked about too how they've like had basically she's like spent more time with during like the edit process. She'll spend more time with Quentin Tarantino than she does her husband because it's intense. So but which I can imagine
because he gets final most of the time in his deals. He gets final editing.
Well, he's both writer and director, so he kind of like
I would say that too. I would want that too. Like this is my vision. I want the final cut to be what I want.
But he was also
there is something.
Go ahead.
There is something to be said though about removing yourself.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
You got too much skin in the game at that point, you know, and which is why I'm like
he trusted her.
Yeah, and that's why I'm surprised like Soderbergh will edit a lot of his stuff, you know, which is interesting. But
or if you even Kevin Smith does a lot of his own editing, and it has gotten in his way. If you look at the movies, if you look at the director's cuts, you can be like, holy shit. So
you're like, oh.
It's she was his editor for all of his movies until she died in 2010.
Oh wow! So she didn't do Once Upon a Time.
So she didn't. Okay.
Or Django, or
right.
Any of those.
Jackie Brown for sure. Then.
Yes.
But yeah, there's so I've always kind of had a problem with some of Tarantino's dialogue. And which is like I find some of it lazy. Like he has to have everyone say the N-word like over and over again, like every other time. Like every other person says the N-word in these movies for no reason. Like there's no reason to do it. It's one thing if it's like one character says it and that's just because that's their character and that's their type of thing, you know.
I agree.
But when you have like every other character saying it, it loses all effect for like, okay, like no, that's not the era in which like, you know, they say this stuff. But
it makes
'cause this
them
is not a
bad
period
people,
piece.
though. That's, you know, that's the only reason I can
Right.
figure it out. They're all just bad people because they're racist and
Right, but it's like
criminals.
But you don't have to say the N word for
No,
somebody
I'm
to
not.
be like,
I'm
Exactly,
agreeing
for
with you
no
guys. I'm
reason.
just saying the only thing I can
No,
come up
for
with
sure.
is that.
Oh yeah. Well, Pulp
No.
Fiction's even worse. Like
No, Pulp Fiction's even worse. But
Yeah.
my thing is, I think he says it because I think he says it. I think he really wants to say it.
Right.
I think he really, really just wants to say it, and he's just like, but I could figure out a way to put it in my movie,
Right.
because he inserts himself into his movies all the time,
Oh
and
my
his
God,
character always says it, or his character is like, or a character that's based on him says, however it is, he says this word like too many times.
Yeah,
he says this movie too many
I do feel like his voice is too much in his writing sometimes. Where a lot of times I think that's where the actor really is an important factor. And so because if you get a good like Samuel Jackson, he doesn't sound like Tarantino's voice, you know. But there's other actors like in Reservoir Dogs, pretty much every single person sounds kind of the same.
Yep.
In a lot of ways, like even in their cadence and their rhythm and everything. Like Harvey Keitel is a little different, actually. Harvey Keitel does a really great job in this of not like making it his own kind of thing. But there are a few characters where it's like, that just sounds like Tarantino a little bit too much. But and these are just nitpicks like from like multiple rewatches now, you know, like I've been able to like see these kind of things multiple times, which is why I love doing like these kind of things where we're rewatch them and talk about them, especially when we have a lot of like perspective and time to kind of like grasp them. And like it doesn't make it a bad movie. Like I still love it, you know. I mean, it's still like, still loved it, and I love what he's doing in these things. And like the music's incredible. Like he's got great music in all his films. Like Pulp Fiction has an incredible soundtrack.
The homage to the 70s in his films is always incredible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like this one, he blew his complete budget for his music on that one song. Right. The one song that we know like is like notorious, that changes like what you think of when you hear that song now. Every time I hear that song, I think about that scene of him cutting off that ear. Right. And I love that he like pans away from it and you don't actually see him cutting the ear off, you know, which is that was like great. I love that kind of stuff. He's really great at like they do this a lot too. And like I mean the opening scene is really great because it really like introduces who these characters are, and it's like, but also like has some mystery to it too, where you don't really like there's talking a bunch of casual guys. I mean, they're talking about like Madonna's like a virgin, you know, which she actually wrote him a letter, I guess. I was like, you're completely wrong about like a virgin, but I still like the movie. So it's like
she's like, I'm need you to get this right.
Yeah. And she like
before you put this out there.
Here's the lyric, literally where like it's what the song's about, you know. It's but
the addition of Stephen Wright as the DJ, of course. I think
and you never see him.
Right. It lends a beauty because he's got such a distinct voice and not a normal DJ voice. Like you wouldn't ever, most people would be like, dude, this is like PBS. Right. So, right. But it works
like NPR
in this situation, in this setting.
It
works really well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like needed because of the juxtaposition of like the chaos. That's
right. Well, Stephen Wright is
this,
like
the
super sounds of the 70s. You know.
Really... Yeah, that's pretty good, Stephen Wright. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
So, I still enjoyed it, but there's definitely like things in it, and that I notice in every Tarantino film now. So,
I agree. It feels like he thinks that by using racial slurs and words that nobody really wants to hear, that he can put an edge. It's edgy, right? He can put an edge
he's
to
making it edgy. It's like,
that's true. And like Brian said,
if it was for shock value,
right. If it were like one character, it would make sense. Like that could be who they are. Like maybe not make the Michael Madsen. Don't make Mr. Blonde the super racist. Make the Buscemi character the super racist. And they just constantly are like, you know, geez, dude, why do you have to be like, it'll add an element. The other thing that I notice about most Tarantino films is there's very little character growth in any of his films. They're the same
Yeah.
people at the beginning as they are at the end,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a
Yep.
snapshot of what's happening, and it's almost like a
Mhm.
snapshot from a concussion victim because it's chopped up, so you can't keep track.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
find that the
Yeah.
stylistic choice of cutting up the movie is really what makes it watchable. I think if you cut some of these movies in order, it wouldn't be as compelling. I think it would be just a lot of dialogue for but the way he cuts up, specifically Pulp Fiction, but he does it with Reservoir Dogs too, is it leaves each chunk kind of perfectly set to the next chunk. So it's escalating by chunk that he's going through, but it's not that linearly they would be great. I don't know. I agree. I think
Right.
his dialogue can be really good. He can have
No,
really
totally.
punchy
Yeah,
dialogue,
No,
I think so too. Yeah.
but then
For
he
sure.
has really lazy dialogue.
but he relies on like a lot of stuff sometimes to get through.
To be
not
edgy.
knowing
Sometimes
what
it can just like keep going.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
and the way it is too. Like I feel like
That's like in Pulp
that's
Fiction. I'll get to that. Though.
yeah. There's a lot of like just
Yeah.
long stretch out dialogue stuff that doesn't really need to be there, but the way it's shot too, it's hard to like edit around. I would imagine so. Like there's not a lot of cutaways with the way he shoots some things. You know, there's probably not a lot of coverage, but
The diner scene is a good example in Reservoir Dogs.
yeah,
they
exactly.
don't cut
No,
very
that's
much.
Exactly what I was.
They do,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
go over the shoulder a lot and follow around.
Uh-huh.
I also noticed
Yeah,
that
all the- yeah.
Tarantino loves. I've noticed in watching all three films, he loves an extra long shot for no reason. like he loves like just a. If you start here and you walk here, no matter how long that is, he's going to focus on you that entire time, and he's going to put that in the film. And I was just like, cut the scene.
Yeah.
Cut the
Like, you can
scene.
feel it. Yeah, you can feel it. When it's like,
No,
oh,
what's happening?
is he gonna cut? No.
Is he? Nope. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
There were some
And that
odd
diner scene
cuts.
specifically is like interesting too, because I think sometimes you can shoot yourself in a corner,
Mhm.
you know, and that diner scene is a perfect example. Like I guarantee he did not shoot standard like reaction and over the shoulder stuff. He just kept going, rotating around that, you know, and he probably did that a couple times, but he didn't do any other stuff with it. Like he didn't do a standard kind of like what you would normally with like a dialogue scene because they're in this round table. That's already a
It's
tough thing to shoot.
It's probably easier for him and like,
Yeah.
money wise too during that time.
Oh yeah, totally. Because this is
There-
like super low budget.
So
right.
yeah.
Super.
To be
He's like, let's
honest-
just go to circle.
Yeah.
low budget directors, I think, get creative in a sense. So to me, part of what made that scene work and the like really tight, because there's one scene where like I swear like the third of this scene is the back of somebody's head and their shoulder, and you can
Yeah.
see Steve like up in the corner like this. To me, that fits for the scene because there's too many guys around this tiny table in a small diner,
Yeah.
and it makes you feel
No, yeah,
like
it
you're
does.
crammed in there, which I like. So
Yeah.
No, for
that's an
sure.
element I
Yeah.
like.
I just for me, like, I mean, I edit all the time. Like I'm an editor, and there were certain things where it's like it's just too much black. Like
Right.
we're just like hanging on this black, and normally like you would use that black as like, okay, the screw we got full frame and black. Okay, now's the time to cut.
Right.
You know, but he just kept going. Like there's one literally where he's going. I mean, one thing if you like if the rate of speed was a little faster.
But it's just like
No, he's
But no,
like,
he
so
like
slow.
He covers Steve's
And there's
face
sometimes
for like
he would
2
cut,
lines
and
of
then
dialogue.
sometimes-
Right.
Yeah, sometimes they
Yeah.
would cut it, and then sometimes it was like, "Oh, we actually are going on the other side of the shoulder." You're just
Right.
like, "Oh," but then he would cut too soon, or they would cut. I don't know, just little things that for me, I probably wouldn't have cut it that way.
I think this might be budgetary, but I do think there were moments
Yeah, a
from
lot of
all the actors, so specifically Steve Buscemi's character, where they could have reshot that scene with the dialogue a little punchier because he's tripped over his line several times, and instead of, and I think Quentin was probably like, "Oh, it's realistic." I'm like, no, though it's not. I've seen this movie enough times now that I pick out
Yeah,
Steve's.
there's some
there's
stuff
like
on Pulp
two
Fiction,
moments,
too.
yeah, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
there's some weird choices in both of them. It's not that he's a bad
No,
director,
Steve-
but I think he's overhyped.
no.
Yeah.
Is what it boils down
Yeah.
to.
But he's a director who thinks himself an actor, which I mean, essentially, I guess you can say he is not because he's been in a lot of things over the years. But I personally don't see him as an actor because he's the same person in everything that he does. He's quippy and punchy, and he's not funny, and he's creepy in everything that he does.
He's definitely creepy.
Um,
I'll give you that.
That's not an actor to me. So, but
no, we have lots of
like-
one-note actors. Like I would argue, Morgan Freeman's almost the same guy in every movie, but we love him. So I think it depends on the
but that's-
person
but
more than
see-
it depends
but
on
see,
if they
but
play the
that's-
same role.
But No, but that's the difference, right? I don't know Tarantino as a person, but I know him as what he puts on screen, and I'm not a fan of any of it. Like you can say that about The Rock plays the same person, but I enjoy it for the most part. Like what that same person works in whatever he's doing.
Right.
Tarantino, not so much. Like it's what he does is not believable to me. So like when he does show up in his own things, I'm like, God, like you're
this is
literally
the
me,
most
bro.
believable
You're like
with him.
you're like the life I want to have, but like I want to direct movies and be in them. Like you know what I mean, or like be in movies, period. But I still want to direct my own movies. But I don't even think I would even put myself in my own movies because I just don't see it.
Will, I would argue that Dusk Till Dawn is the most extreme version of Tarantino that we see, where he's the creepy version of Tarantino.
But has anybody seen him in Alias when he comes in as a character? Because
is he creepy in that too?
That's creepy Tarantino, and it's ridiculous. Like I'm saying, I've seen him be himself in so many things, and I'm just like, why are people hiring you for this? Like, what are we?
I mean, he's at this point, he's a prestigious director that anybody would probably kill to work with.
I guess
so.
But being a prestigious director and adding value to my shoot because you're in it are two different things for me. But I get it. He's probably a draw. I understand all that. Me personally, I'm just kind of like, But I want to tap on what Ray said. What did Ray say? Ray said, I think I've seen a couple of his movies. I get it. In Django, it was a lot, but it made sense. You talk about them saying like the N-word all the time.
Right.
And I do want to say this. Tarantino has a tendency to, when he makes these films, he makes them in eras that they say the N-word a lot. So he can say the N-word a lot and be justified for saying it. So like, it's just one of those things where it's like, because all of his movies, it's not realistic. You might have some stuff that's like tapping on real stuff, but he molds them in the way that he wants to mold them. He does not have to use that word all the time. And I'm not saying that to say that that's what Ray was saying at all, Ray. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just, it made me think of something. So that's why I wanted to say it.
Yeah. He finds a way to use racial slurs in every film.
In everything.
No matter what.
In everything. No matter what. And it's always a boys' club for the most part. So he talks out on women.
Well, we can talk about that with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That movie is a boys' club.
It's I feel like all these movies are boys' clubs, even Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Uma is just kind of set to the side.
Uma in it, but she's a sexual piece.
Is not necessarily a boys' club, but there's definitely fetishism, and we could get into that with some of that.
Sure.
Now, I did notice that there were no feet shots in Reservoir Dogs, so I was glad to see that. But there definitely...
But there's like no women really.
Right.
There's no women.
And like I noticed like the feet thing is only with women.
Right.
Like
nope.
But you see that with Uma in Pulp Fiction, and then you see it with both Margot Robbie and the girl in the car with Brad Pitt.
And both of their feet dirty. What's up with him with dirty
It's always dirty feet.
That was
too,
a choice too. That was a choice. Like he wants them dirty.
Right.
Yeah.
And he even like had her mash her foot against the window in the shot.
Right against the window, and I was just like, when we came back to Margot and the thing, he zoomed right into
He was on her feet and then zoomed to her. Now I got to give him credit. He had her snore, which is not something you would normally have a beautiful blonde woman do in a film. So he did add an element of she's human to it. I like that. But yeah, the feet thing is undeniable.
At her feet. He started at her feet.
I like felt my eyes roll in my head too when that shot came. I was like, oh god.
Right.
No,
it's almost like you're watching the next Tarantino movie going, where are the feet? Where's the poop? Where's the poop? Right. We'll get into Margot Robbie in that movie, but anyway. So
Reservoir Dogs.
There are definitely moments in this film.
Oh, I want to mention the name. There's no reason this is called Reservoir Dogs.
They don't live near a reservoir.
Like,
they don't.
No, there's no
interesting
rhyme or reason why. It just was a cool name he liked.
That's nice. Yeah. All right.
So there was one of my favorite moments in this movie because I like doing both. I want to just trash on it. We are doing quite a bit of Tarantino trashing. But one of my favorite moments is when Mr. Pink comes back and we've already dealt with Orange, kind of passing out for a little while. And White is telling him, calm down, get your shit together. And he starts kicking shit all over the place. He's like, all right, I'm calm. And I love that moment because it's all off screen. You only see Harvey Keitel during those moments, but Steve Buscemi's like acting in that moment is the other way of what I expect from him in this movie. And it's great.
Yeah.
There are great moments like that.
No, of course.
I think Harvey Keitel could have, I feel like it's an amateur director directing a great actor. So it really showed with Keitel, where everybody else was dialed in on this kind of overacting almost because Roth's character had to do some overacting, especially with the dying parts.
Yeah, because he's like in this crazy amount of pain.
Right.
And yeah.
But I did like every time Roth like was shocked, he would, you know, kind of do this thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. Like,
yeah.
yeah, he was like wasn't sure, like he's still trying to
Right.
fire the gun, and like, yeah, because he's just so like
That's
delirious.
so classic Tim Roth though. Like anything I've seen him in, he kind of does like
That's his
a
signature.
thing where he's like it's a signature of like I don't know if it's like to show like a thing. It's like to show something, to show like his unawareness or however it is. It's effective every time he does it. Like I'm not knocking him for doing it, but when the moment he like when he shot him and then he was like he kept like going like that. I was like, oh, that's so Tim Roth. He's been doing it since this time. I was like, that's so
right.
I was like, happy.
The other thing I really liked was the anecdote like story and how they shot that and how they show us in real time. You start to believe his story because you're watching it. You're like, oh, this is really this is a story.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that was really.
And then of course he talks within the scene, which I do enjoy that. I like it when you see people talking about what's happening when it's not really.
Yeah, it's like they're narrating it too at the same time, but they're in it.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And then the guy, the buddy, the cop that is the guy putting him into undercover work. I swear, had Quentin Tarantino known Sam Jackson at the time, that would have been Sam Jackson 100%.
Oh yeah, totally.
You could hear it in his cadence.
I agree too.
Yeah.
So
I agree too. When I blinked, well, mind you, I was in a haze for a little bit, but I blinked and I was like, "That's Sam Jackson in this too," and I was like, "No, that's
no." But he had that cadence, like, almost like he's been writing that cadence for Sam the whole time. Like,
yeah, he could have been. He would have easily been Samuel L. Jackson. I could see that being the case.
I like it. All right, why don't we rate this movie and we'll move on to Pulp. Oh, actually, we'll move on to the pre-review and then we'll move on to Pulp Fiction. We do have a pre-review from Biggie this week. Thank you as always, sir.
He did that early. He said, "Let me get this out the way."
Right? He was like, "I have it on Tuesday." I'm like, "Hey, that's great." But if movies change, you know, they do that.
Yeah,
Lala, rate Reservoir Dogs for us.
Give it a 7.
Okay, so rewatchable, but not yet.
Rewatchable, but not yet. Like, so I'll give it a 7. It doesn't belong lower than that because it's just because like I will say this. I went into this a little hyped up because I was like, everybody loves this film, like Reservoir Dogs. It's a classic and Tarantino, and I went in and I was like, I don't get what y'all talking about. It's a good film, but it ain't that deep. But again, during that time, I'm pretty sure it was like, oh my god, like this is so different and new, and how he's shooting and how he's reversing it and stuff like that. But I've lived through a bunch of that, so part of me was just like, oh, these actors are amazing, and to me, that what kind of like got me through the story.
Had you seen any other Tarantino before this? Before these?
Yeah, I've seen like.
Okay, so you've seen.
These are the last 3 she hasn't seen.
These are the last ones.
Oh, okay, so you have seen. Okay, gotcha.
Tarantino thing.
That is interesting. You've seen like
Yeah.
Cool.
So me coming into this, I know his style. I know I'm actually a fan of Tarantino. I would love to work with him, but he only doing 10 films. I guess that's not gonna be a thing. Because I always said my dream was to always like dance in a Tarantino film because he always had somebody dancing in his films. So I was like, so I was like, I would love to just be like a character in the background that just doesn't stop dancing. Like every scene.
Let's just hope he's scouring through YouTube right now. And he
I hope so, man. And he just. I pray to the movie gods that they do because man, oh man. But yeah, I give this a 7 because I enjoyed the characters. Again, like Sniddy said, there's no character development, but I did enjoy the characters. So yeah.
Brian.
The acting specifically.
It's an 8 for me. Yeah.
All right. What was it when you first saw it? How about that?
Oh, it was probably like it's probably like a 9. Yeah, it was up there. I mean, and this was like well, no, I take that back. Pulp Fiction was the first Tarantino film I saw.
Me too.
And then I saw Reservoir Dogs. But yeah, so like coming off of Pulp Fiction and then this, was like, it's definitely a 9. And I mean, I own it, so like it definitely has that pull. And I think it's an important film in his, his catalog. Yeah, because it's an early one. You get to see like where all this stuff comes from. Like, exactly. So
no, for sure. I would agree. I will give it this time around. I'm going to go with Law on a 7. I think it hasn't aged as well as maybe I would hope for something that had kind of helped change cinema to some degree in the 90s. And I think it's because of kind of the way we view the world now is very different than we did in the 1990s, and it's
Yeah.
it's unavoidable.
Oh,
It's
it
just
looks
a
like it.
reality.
Yeah.
And if you're not viewing the world differently than you did in the early 90s, maybe take a step back and reflect. Just saying.
Just a little bit, or a lot of bit.
Just
Just
a
a lot
thought.
of bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but it's doable. I promise.
No facts.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, it's a 7. I would probably watch it. I'll
Cool.
probably watch it again, but probably not for another decade. Just
No, for
because
sure.
this was
It'll
the
be a
first
while
time in a
before.
decade that I've watched it.
Yeah.
Pulp
Oh, wow.
Fiction,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of times, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably watch it again sooner than that, just because I like it more than this one. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
said, we're gonna go right into the pre-review, and we'll be right back.
Study Sunday nights, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
Welcome to Biggie's Pre-Review. The Pre-Review is where I tell you about upcoming movies coming to movie theaters and beyond. This is for the week June 12th through 18th, 2023. Let's get the ball rolling with Jagged Mind. In this horror thriller, Billy is plagued by blackouts and strange visions that lead her to discover she's stuck in a series of time loops, possibly related to her mysterious new girlfriend. This movie stars Maisie Richardson Sellers and Shannon Woodward, to name a few. This movie looks like it's going to be thrilling, and I can't wait to watch this one. Jagged Mind premieres on Hulu starting June 15th. Next on my list is the animated adventure Elemental. Elemental follows Ember and Wade in a city where fire, water, land, and air residents live together. This movie stars Leah Lewis, Mamadou Athey, Wendy McClendon-Covey, and Catherine O'Hara, to name a few. I'm always down for a great animated adventure, and this looks like it's going to be pretty epic. The movie Elemental premieres in movie theaters starting June 16th. Next up is a movie I've been looking forward to for a long time, The Flash. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. This movie stars Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, Sasha Calle, Ben Affleck, Michael Shannon, and Kiersey Clemens, to name a few. The Flash has been a fan favorite of mine for many, many years in the comics, and to see it finally hitting the big screen in his own movie is fantastic, and I cannot wait. The Flash begins in theaters starting June 16th. Alright, next on my list is some horror comedy with The Blackening. 7 friends go away for the weekend, only to find themselves trapped in a cabin with a killer who has a vendetta. They must pit their street smarts and knowledge of horror movies against the murderer to stay alive. This movie stars Grace Byers, Dwayne Perkins, and Jay Farrow, to name a few. I always like comedy with my horror. I think that's one of those niches that just really, really succeeds in doing what it needs to do. Let's go. The Blackening begins in movie theaters starting June 16th. Did somebody say Wes Anderson? Maybe. Possibly. Yes. Let's check in on the new Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid City. World-changing events spectacularly disrupt the itinerary of a junior stargazer/space cadet convention in an American desert town, circa 1955. Now, as I said, this movie is directed by Wes Anderson. It stars quite a slew of people. You've got Tom Hanks, Maya Hawke, Margot Robbie, Scarlett Johansson, Ed Norton, Adrian Brody, and that's just to name a few. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't really care for Wes Anderson. I'm not one of those people. I enjoy his movies, so I'm really looking forward to this one, especially with the star-studded cast. Let's go. The movie Asteroid City premieres in limited release in theaters starting June 16th. Next up on my list is another one I've been looking forward to with Chris Hemsworth, called Extraction 2. After being presumed dead, mercenary Tyler Rake returns for another high-stakes mission. This movie stars Chris Hemsworth, and if you know, you know, he was presumed dead. but he returns. And this movie, I gotta say, looks action-packed. The first one was definitely kick-ass, and I think this one's gonna be even better. The action thriller Extraction 2 premieres on Netflix starting June 16th. All right, next on my list is Pretty Red Dress. Pretty Red Dress follows a South London family and how one red dress is the center of their lives. This movie stars Natty Jones and Alexandra Burke, to name a few. This drama looks like it's going to be heavy-hitting and very interesting. It's definitely something that I am compelled to watch, and I can't wait. The movie Pretty Red Dress has a limited release in movie theaters starting June 16th. All right. Last on my list, but certainly not least, is Maggie Moore's. In a dusty desert town where nothing ever happens, a police chief must suddenly deal with the back-to-back murders of two women with the same name. Now, this movie stars John Hamm and Tina Fey, to name a few, but this movie looks great. It's going to be one of those mystery movies that keeps you on the edge. I can feel it just from watching the trailer. I'm always down for a great mystery, and seeing these two great actors, John Hamm and Tina Fey, in it is going to be something wild. The movie Maggie Moore's has a limited release in movie theaters starting June 16th. All right, that looks like it's all for the pre-review this week, and I hope to see you out there.
And we are back from the pre-review. Thank you as always, Biggie. That was a great pre-review.
Thanks, Biggie.
I love your little bit at the end with all the things disappearing. It's good stuff. Look forward to next week's. That said, there were we were discussing all those movies because there's a lot coming out. And I know Brian was talking about excited for Extraction 2. Apparently I'm missing the fire train with that one. I need to get the first one under my belt.
Hop on Netflix, man.
Well, I like follow his stunt double who's been with him for years on TikTok. He's also a center trainer, and I do center fitness app and everything. So and the director is Sam Hargrove, who is a stunt coordinator for a lot of MCU films.
Oh, okay.
So there's all this connection there and everything, and
So
he actually will actually operate camera on some of the stunt stuff too.
That's awesome. So Extraction is to MCU as John Wick is to the Matrix.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of connections.
I like when stuntmen and stuntwomen become like directors because their movies are always amazing. Like they're always like
they're always able to
choreography.
Yeah, they can do these crazy stunts that they've probably always wanted to do, but like were like restricted in whatever movies they were just being a stunt coordinator. And they're like, man, I've always wanted to do this balls to the wall stunt.
So they basically dropped the beginning of the budget on insurance and then started making the movie.
Basically, yes, like,
because I feel like they always have a great perspective. They have a great eye, and they're like, no, we can do this, but then we can put the camera. We can put the camera here, so when they turn, it'll be a shot that you will never think was possible. But because they are stunt people, they're like, anything's possible. We can do this, and it's so good every time. So I think that
that's pretty. There's like a crazy oneer in Extraction 2, like that. Hemsworth stuff was like just about killed him. Like he actually literally gets set on fire. Like it's not digital fire. He gets set on fire during this oneer, and he's like punching people with his arm on fire.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be so. Yeah.
But what I need though is an old guard too. That's what I'm waiting on.
Oh yeah. I thought they were doing one.
I hope so.
I thought they were like there's.
I need more about because you can't set up a character like that young black girl. I can't remember her name, but you can set up a character like her and not follow through. She's amazing. Yeah. And just drop it. Like
that'd be sweet.
Okay. But sorry, go ahead, Snake.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Why don't we have Brian start with Pulp Fiction? And we'll
Pulp Fiction.
How many times have you seen it?
Oh man, I've seen it so many times.
Dozens.
This one, I've probably seen it more than Reservoir Dogs. Yeah. So this one I do like probably the most out of all of Tarantino's library. Yeah, this one's and on this rewatch, there's a lot of stuff that I had that I took issue with, but still was able to like Samuel Jackson is so good in this damn movie. I mean, I love him in this movie. He actually still knows that Ezekiel line Like he recited it in an interview recently, actually, and it's still like embedded in his brain, like because I'm sure he had to recite it. So it's long,
Right.
you know.
But he had to recite it in two
And,
completely different scenes.
Yeah, in two different ways
Right.
too. Like
You had to do
he's
it
like so intense the
big
first time he
and
says it.
little, right.
Yeah, and he's like, calm down, like yeah. And he's probably the one. Like he actually has character, like we mentioned character development in Reservoir Dogs, but he actually has a character arc in this in Pulp Fiction, which is funny too because it's so non-linear, you know, the way it is. It's like all these mini stories that are like connected to each other in a way, you know. I do take issue quite a bit with the dialogue in this one because this is like what I was talking about, where it's like every other character is saying, you know, I give like Christopher Walken's character kind of a pass because one, it's like the time he came from.
Well, and that time was way earlier too. We're talking
exactly,
about
and
30 years earlier.
Yeah, and like a lot of like, you know, folks that were in Vietnam spoke, you know,
like he speaks,
yeah, in that way about, you know,
other races and
exactly.
and stuff like
so there was that's like a little bit of it, but still, it's like
it was so heavy. It was still heavy though. It was like,
yeah,
God,
exactly.
it's
like
a child.
It was like bam, bam, like three of them, like boom, 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 you know, after one after another. It's like, okay, you said it the one time, that's fine. But every other character says something, and like La mentioned, literally Tarantino says it like
so many
times, just in one scene, like,
and not just the word, but also in kind of the most vile way.
Yeah, like he was putting some
like to me that's just lazy, like
into that scene.
You know what I mean?
It is.
It's terrible, but it's just like
it's lazy.
You can use another word, man. Like, come on. So it just gets lost too, where it's just like, okay, whatever. And like these days, it pulls me out of it now. I was like, oh, that's not. You could have. There's so many other words in our language that you could have used, you know. But
he could have said motherfucker, and it would have come off
totally
perfect.
My thing is this: even if he wanted to, even if he wanted to use that word, right? Even if you want to use that word.
Right.
It's because you're justifying it. I'm not saying you. I'm saying him as you.
No, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as a writer.
The royal you, you know.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
You know, like you're using that word to make a point about the times that you're in, which is what he uses for all his movies. This is the point because we're back in ye olden times, and this is how they talked. And now we're in the right, but we're in the 90s, and this is still how white people talk. It didn't matter, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, that's fine,
right?
But you could have said it like twice.
Exactly.
And then just cuss the dude out and just like this fucker, this. You can get a whole bunch of stuff.
The other thing too, so is his wife is Bonnie. Bonnie isn't Bonnie black?
Yes.
Bonnie is black.
Like, what the fuck? Like, I was like,
and this guy lives in the valley. I just don't feel like this character would say it.
No, exactly. Like there's just yeah. So
it was just like when they did the little montage of her, like, let me tell you how it's gonna happen when she comes home. I was like,
yeah.
I leaped in like
she would not let you get away with this. I'm sorry.
And part of me is like, is that why you saying it that much? Because she's not home. You're trying to get this done. So when she does leave, when she not here, you can be like,
yeah, exactly. It's like,
damn. He's afraid. He's afraid of her. It seems like he's afraid of her. He's talking to these things.
That's why it's called the Bonnie situation. Yeah, like he is definitely afraid of her.
I'm like,
man, but yeah. So yeah, I had like, you know, my issues with that stuff, but a lot of this movie is really great. I mean, like, yeah, just a lot of great stuff in it. Like the whole story, like the storyline with Bruce Willis's character and how that kind of like starts out, you know, and you're like, oh man, and you really see that like get fleshed out, and just the little story with the watch is really great and how important that is, and it just like. It does foreshadow a lot of things because like you're like, oh shit, he lost, like the watch is missing, he's gonna go back, and you kind of like put it together in your head too, even if you've never seen it, where he's like, something's gonna go down when he's gonna get his watch, you know. So it's like, and then like, yeah, he's able to like him and Wallace get in that insane situation. Yeah, and like I love that, like, okay, we just like
what
went
now?
Some mess. Like, oh, that what now?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, yeah, just like. And the performances, I think you can kind of see Tarantino like learned a lot from Reservoir Dogs and then when you go into this one, because like even the performances are a little better. Like he was able to like draw performances out, and I mean he does have an like, incredible cast.
Yeah, he got seasoned
as
actors
well,
this
but
time around. I mean,
yeah,
although Travolta was kind of coming out of retirement.
Yeah, exactly. This is like Travolta's like resurgence and everything, and he did it really great.
Even though that was supposed to be Michael Madsen, but he turned it down.
Yeah,
he turned it down to do Whiter. And then he was like, and then
the funny thing is,
Madsen was like, "Damn, I probably should have did that movie."
well, the funny thing is though, so this is Vincent Vega,
right? And then there's Vic Vega.
Michael Madsen plays Vic
Vega, yeah,
brothers. So it's like that would have been a weird, like, unless they're like twins. Maybe that was like his thing. They're twins.
No, because I think that's probably why he wanted Michael Madsen, so it could be like a through line of like siblings, like maybe they are twins. Yeah. But I think
or he could have just been Vic, and this could have been pre. And although he does die in this, so that doesn't make sense either.
But I think like in but they said like in 2004, Tarantino wanted to do like a movie with Travolta and Madsen as the Vega, like the Vega brothers or something like that.
I did hear about that,
but it never went anywhere. It was just talking.
Yeah, and they were both supposed to be kind of like polar opposites. Like Madsen's just like unhinged.
Right, a mad dog.
It is interesting too that like they also wear just straight black suits and black ties, just like the Reservoir Dogs.
This is
but if you think about it, they are polar opposites because like Michael Madsen is like a nut and he's like chipping off ears and slice people in the face, and Travolta is
much more reserved.
Talking about foot
he'll still kill you,
and
but he'll still kill you. But he's like chilling out, he's like chilling out or whatever. But that's another thing too. I'll get into that when I talk about that. I'm gonna write that down so I can get it.
So I like this because this is something I noticed about Tarantino, and I brought this up to La before the show, but I wanted to mention this. This is Tarantino has like 7 signatures, and some of them are shots, and some of them are dialogue. We know the N-word is like almost a signature for him, which is terrible. But the black suits with the black tie. 100%. He loves that motif.
He loves black and white.
And then
he loves black and white.
He also loves the trunk shot. That's in both Reservoir Dogs and in Pulp Fiction. And he does it again. It's just not these 2 films. But then I started thinking about how his films are kind of broken into almost like 3 segments. So you've got his gangster flicks, which are kind of his early films. You've got Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown, which are kind of like 3 modern tellings of gangsters. But then after that, you get into his lore type stuff, right? So that's Kill Bill. That's going to be, hold on, I want to get his real list here. But I'll get to the lore ones in a minute. And then he's got his what if stories, right? Because Django, Inglourious Bastards, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are all what if.
Yeah, they're all what ifs.
Which are great.
Yeah.
But he's, also the numbering thing where he started numbering his movies at Kill Bill and didn't number I don't know. The dude seems like a wackadoo. Anyway.
But my question is, those are like what ifs, but what if they never said the N-word because he still be the
I know, right? It's just terrible.
Still be saying the word.
But I do have to agree with Brian. This is my favorite Tarantino film still to date.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I think that touches this one as far as creativity, organization.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Even choices, because even the way that Jules says the Ezekiel lines, the very end word is different in that telling. And then when Amanda Plummer is doing the intro to the film and they're like, I'll kill every last one of you, motherfuckers. She says motherfuckers in one, but then you fuckers in the other. And it's like,
exactly. What? Yeah.
It's
like,
weird.
Was that a choice or was that just like
bad editing?
Was that an actual mistake? Like,
right.
yeah. Cause I was like, oh, okay. That's off.
But it's 2 times in the movie that it happens. So I don't think it's bad editing. I think
exactly. So I was like, oh, maybe that is like, I know. Yeah. I noticed that too this time around.
Law, what do you think of Pulp Fiction? We haven't given you the full. Give us your take.
Okay, so like I said, I never seen none of these films before, but I did like seeing the origin of these, like the memes, like I told you guys beforehand. So I think that's very cool. Seeing all these memes.
All right.
So Travolta,
yeah,
like that's great. Even like Uma with the, because she has like a thing where she's like this or something. So like that was nice. I enjoyed the square because
good.
Like part of me is like, didn't that come back in Kill Bill? Didn't somebody do this? Oh, she did that.
Similar.
She Uma Thurman did that in Kill Bill when she went to go visit Vernita Green and they were in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And she was like, only way we could be square. Now, because I remember watching Pulp Fiction and was like, somebody did that in another
Yeah.
Tarantino film, and I'm like, it's freaking Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman again. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I think that's a nice little callback.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this film. I thought it was fun. Again, I can see like the stylization of it. I can see that like this is like people are like, oh my god, look how he did this film. It's like, because it's like also like all of these films actually are like throwbacks to older films. So like
100%.
in the way that the title card, the way that he writes like the people's names and the credits, like all of that is very like old timey, gives like that old timey feel. So I kind of like that for this one. I like the title cards. I liked you kind of knew what you were getting into, I guess. Like you kind of like, or didn't, or like you were like, what's this one gonna be about? So like it was interesting. Plus, this does not take place in order, just like all his other films. Like don't take place in order, but you see the order. But you see the order. I thought this film was fun. I again walked in being like, okay, this is one of like Tarantino's like it films that people loved, and I walked in like, I get it. It might not be that for me, but I can see why it is for people. Like you
can see why it can. Like you can see.
I can see why. I can see why. I personally don't see why Uma Thurman got an Oscar nomination from this, or whatever nomination. I think it was Oscar.
Watch the other movies in '94, and then maybe you'll see why.
Maybe you know what? You make an excellent point, sir, and I will probably have to do that. But I was like watching this, and I was like, she got nominated for an Oscar.
I think she did good for sure, but
I'm not saying she did bad, but I don't see it as an Oscar film. But also, I believe stipulations for Oscars were a little bit lower. They get higher and higher as the years keep going by. Like you see that like the atmosphere changes with what they are accepting as like an amazing performance, even though Jamie Lee Curtis. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But because she should have won. No offense, nobody. She should have won. Stephanie Shu should have won. So, but that's just anyway. I'll down that hill. But I thought Pulp Fiction was nice. I enjoyed. It kind of shows me like why Uma Thurman is like a icon in a sense. Like this is kind of like her, like movie. Me personally, I did not like the acting from John Travolta in this film.
Really?
I think I would have preferred Michael Madsen, because I felt like what Travolta was doing was like either a poor man's impersonation of Michael Madsen, or he was trying to be too much like Samuel L. Jackson's character in a way, or just like Samuel L. Jackson's like swag in a way, because it was just like how they were walking, like this little walk that he does. I was like, that's ugly, but it seems like he was, I don't know, I just feel like he was nervous and he was trying to, I don't know, I just didn't quite believe him at times, and at other times like that Travolta charm came out and I believed him, and I was like, oh, he's doing so good. And there were other times where I was like, they could have filmed this again, they could have gave him one more go. Just one more go. Maybe it would have been like a different take or a different thing. Loved Samuel L. Jackson. I thought he was amazing. Especially the scene between him and Tim Roth. Like, I believe that's the end, right?
Yeah.
Like my timeline of my brain is all messed up.
End of the
You know what
film.
I'm saying? Like, but I will say this though. This I'll talk about with feet in this one, because like it was feet all over the place. But like, oh, Ray, the reason why Madsen passed is because he decided to do Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner.
A smashing success. Oh, sorry.
Right. Instead of doing this. He said he regretted the decision. And likewise, Lawrence Fishburne was supposed to be Jules. And he turned it down because
Michael Madsen and Lawrence Fishburne in Pulp Fiction.
I'm just saying though. So he was supposed to be Fishburne was supposed to be Jules, and Tarantino said he refused it because his team didn't see it as a starring role. But then Fishburne later came out and was like, "Nah, I didn't do it because it seemed like they were glamorizing heroin, and he didn't want to be in a film that did that."
They are. There's no denying that there's glamorizing violence. And
no, for sure.
In this film.
But I will say this though, this film caught me off the guard. Like I was caught off guard. I didn't know, because I was like, they kept hyping up his wife. They kept hyping up Marcellus. They kept hyping those two up. So I was interested to see what was going to happen. The fact that she like OD for a second, when I tell you I laughed so hard and I was like, what's happening? Like it took I will say this about Tarantino. He has a way of taking turns that you didn't buckle up for. I was like, I didn't buckle up for this turn. And when she OD'd and he was like, I was like, everybody else did massaged her foot, maybe kissed her or something. You killed her. I was like, you killed her. So like I enjoyed like that kind of like, I was like, where does this go?
I would
from
argue
here?
that he really didn't. She was like rifling around.
She
he
stole
didn't like
stuff
force
from
her
him.
to take those drugs. Yeah.
No.
But-
She definitely did. But if you
Marcellus would see it as he
Marcellus
killed
would
her.
see it like that. Like that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like because she was wrong, which is why they came to a mutual agreement. We would keep this to ourselves because I was just like when she OD'd, I was like, where does the film go from here? Like I was really like stuck for a second. So like, no, it was.
So,
and like sis, and like and when I had that moment, I lost my mind a little bit. I was like,
the stab is actually beautifully done in reverse. So he started with her with the needle, a pokey needle, the ones that like go up in the syringe, and then does this, and it was very well done.
Yeah,
so
very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that sequence. The sequence with Bruce Willis. Whenever Bruce Willis is something, I always sit up. I don't know why. I always pay attention. I love me some Bruce Willis. It could be like the C-listest, the most C-listing movie you can ever think of. But I'm like, Bruce Willis in there?
Yeah.
I'll just watch the first 15 and I watch the whole movie like, oh my God, Bruce Willis is amazing. So like I love me some Bruce Willis. So like I kind of like just sat up and just kind of like watched him like do his thing. But I will say that one, okay,
you don't see where that one's going.
So like
you're
like,
like, God damn.
it was a left turn when she OD'd and my face was up against the glass, and then like it was a right turn with Marcellus and my face was against the glass. Like I was all over the place because I was like, and then they like showed it essentially too.
Yeah, no, he's getting
oh yeah,
you know.
No, like I'm just like I felt, and here's the thing that I like about this. This is a moment where I was like, okay, Quentin, you just said the N-word 1,000 times up and through this movie. You yourself have said it a billion times for no reason. I do like the fact that he didn't make fun of this like big grown black man being raped and make it into like a jokey joke like that. That moment, like when it happened, and then like the dude shot him. I'm pretty sure people in the theaters were like, like because like he's raping this guy.
You just watch a rapist get his dick blown off with a shotgun. So it's satisfying.
Super cathartic, right? But I like the fact that they kind of like brought it down a little bit. And he was like, "Are you okay?" He was like, "Nah, man, I'm not okay." Like, it was so
he's
honest.
so good in that movie too.
He was so honest, and it was just like because he's as much of a gangster as I am. I didn't kill people. I didn't like whatever. I'm pretty sure he didn't rape nobody. I'm pretty sure he, and I'm not justifying anything that he's done as like the villain that he is essentially, but nobody deserves that. And the fact that like Bruce could have walked. His character, Butch could have walked and let him.
That scene where he looks for a weapon is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah,
it's so good because he could just take his
like
time.
Escalating.
But it's almost
don't
like
even know he's gone. I love it so much.
It's almost so like though Tarantino has a game plan because when he pulls that sword off, it's almost like we're looking at Kill Bill becoming a thing in that moment. Which is kind of cool
because he loves old samurai flicks and everything like that,
and 70s films and putting them all together.
Like the way that he looked at it, the angle, it was like it was like it felt like one of those moments where it's like his brain was like
well, and Bruce Willis's acting like was all right here during that whole scene. Like he was just where he was looking, how he was looking was the most. I don't know. It showed that this was the movie. This and Sixth Sense showed me that Bruce was such a good actor.
Yeah, he did the chainsaw. I really felt like that was just like a nod to like Evil Dead or something. It was just like
it's a good weapon if you're gonna just go
because
fuck people.
But it's also loud and it lets people know where you are. So like it's not conducive in this moment. So like the fact that he picked it up and was like, nah.
The hammer would have been good too, honestly. Because the hammer would have been right in the back of the head. That dude's dead.
Honestly, but I need some, but I need some length though. Like I need, he has length. The bat or the katana has length, and I like love both of that. That he has like length, and again, like you guys brought up too. You guys brought up the fact that he was like, so what now? And he told you what he was going to do to the guy. He was like,
Yeah, like
Talk about with us. I don't care what you do with him. Like,
Yeah.
are we?
I'm gonna get
squared? Because
medieval on your
I
ass is one of the
Yeah,
greatest
like-
lines in cinema. It's
Mhm.
I give it
No,
to
like, I
Tarantino.
felt-
Like I said, sometimes his dialogue is spot
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
The everything
I
Ving
think-
Rhames says in that moment is
That's the thing.
is good. Even though
I
he
think,
drops
like-
the N word, it
I feel like
it
Brian's
fits,
like
right?
that has more to do with Ving Rhames than to do with
Exactly. Like
exactly.
any other
You know?
actor, it's not. Yeah,
No,
like
for
it would
sure.
sound too. Yeah, the way Ving
It
Rhames
would be
does it.
corny out of somebody
Right.
else's mouth, but
Yeah.
Ving
Same thing
Rhames,
with
you're
Samuel
like,
Jackson. Like,
yeah, you're like, I believe
believe him.
everything this man says that he's
Yeah.
going to do to me. So,
Yeah.
but no, this was I will say this: out of all three of these movies, I will say I did enjoy Pulp Fiction the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So I want to talk about two more little things that we do have another movie to rate. So we're gonna have to get through this. We could probably talk about this movie for quite a while. We could break it down because even like some of the blocking in this movie is pretty creative, and even like he definitely learned, like you said, he learned his lesson. He learned how to become a better director. I think once he hit this level in the acclaim, though, it stunted him because after this he's kind of glided at this level, and I think he should be
everything is
pushing
kinda like
himself,
this.
and he's not.
yeah,
But there's two things that I think are great because this has been kind of lore about this movie since the 90s because there's a MacGuffin in the film,
Right.
specifically the
the
briefcase.
Yeah.
And then there's the why does Marcellus Wallace have this
Right.
this
the
actual Band-Aid on the
bandage.
back of his neck? And so, 666 on the MacGuffin, a lot of
Yeah.
people think that he is the Antichrist and that's the mark of the beast being covered up, and that what you see in the briefcase is the cup of Christ. That's why it glows gold. That's
yeah.
of course, if Satan gets a hold of the cup of Christ, or the Antichrist does,
Like
that
Tim
can
Roth
create all
even
sorts of
says,
problems.
is that what I think it is?
Right,
He's like,
which
yeah,
makes you
like,
go, okay,
yeah.
this is obviously something so famous. Anybody that
Something
saw it would know what it
recognizable.
was, right?
Yeah.
So I love MacGuffins for that reason. They can be treated as lazy sometimes, but I like this one because there's enough
Yeah.
subtlety that you can't tell what it is. And he didn't do a MacGuffin in Res Dogs, so it makes me happy that he doesn't always use it, but he still uses it sometimes. So
No, for sure.
I just like that little head canon because it literally he's never going to confirm it. He even said he will never confirm what is in that briefcase. So
And honestly, he doesn't. I really feel like he doesn't need to. I feel like that adds to the cultness of Pulp Fiction. Like, so he doesn't.
That's not what
necessarily
Pulp
do
Fiction's
that.
about.
Right? It's not. I mean, it's about getting this briefcase, but it's way more. It's way more into that than when you go into the different. Also, I feel like this was I feel like he makes his films like they're like plays in a way.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Like,
And then it's like, so when I'm watching his films, I'm like, this is very play-like.
well,
Also,
opening to
actually,
Reservoir Dogs was very much like a play. Yeah.
It's like play-like. I felt like Samuel Jackson was on his William Shakespeare during this whole
So,
film.
I want to see this now, Law, that you said this. So in about 25 years, Tarantino will be close to dying or completely out of the picture.
You gonna give him
I'm
25
not, I'm just saying. I'm just saying he's already in his
I'm messing
50s.
with
He'll be
you.
close to 75. He's much older than I am. So anyway, he'll be dead in 25, 30 years. Likely. Maybe not. Sorry, Tarantino, if you're not. But if he is, then maybe somebody will be like, it'd be really hip if we took Reservoir Dogs and made a Broadway play out of it. And, and then just
A
like
musical.
the fake blood, with strings and
I'm
just like over the
surprised
top.
they haven't done that. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet.
Well,
Like, if I'm being
Beetlejuice is a
honest,
play, so I
because-
don't think there's anything else.
But that's what I'm saying.
you know.
Beetlejuice, Shrek,
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Like, what are we doing? These were cult classic films. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction. I'm surprised that they didn't. It's so gimmicky. Legally Blonde's a play, like a musical. So I'm just
what?
like,
I didn't know that. That hurts me.
it's
Like
no,
I love
it's
Legally
so
Blonde.
good.
Don't get me
It's
wrong, I
really
love
Popular.
it.
I guess it's really hers really good.
Okay.
It's really good. I've
Yeah,
watched
that's what I've
it.
heard.
Oh, jeez, was that the chair, or was that?
Good chair.
Or
break
was there a
wall.
go?
I don't know what that was. That was weird. Continue.
crying out
I'll
the pain.
find out what that was.
No, but I will
Child.
say this: Legally Blonde was an amazing musical. I just had to put that out there because they did a thing where like MTV did the search. This is back when MTV was this actual station and they did stuff on it. MTV did a search for the lead to play Elle Woods, and they did this whole thing. And then at the end of it, they showed the play. They showed the musical on MTV, and you can actually go on YouTube and like be like Legally Blonde musical play. Like it's on there. It's on YouTube. You can watch it.
Huh.
It's so good. It's so smart how they like they gave you all the important scenes, all the important things in between, and the way that they added music to it, it was so good. I was like,
Okay.
I was proud. I was like, I'm a part of this, but I'm not.
All right.
I was proud.
Law, give me your Pulp Fiction rating and a number. Go.
7.5.
7.5. Brian.
Yeah, 7.5.
9.
9. I'm going to also give this a 9. I don't think this is diminished in quality. I think it still has questionable moments, but that's
Yes.
it.
Okay, I'll give it an
Yep.
8. I'll give it an 8.
Oh, look at that. There you go.
I'll give it an
All
8.
right. All right.
It's better than a 7.5. I was being a bitch. So it was an 8.
You get to rate however you want. We do
Exactly,
not judge
yeah.
your
No,
rating.
No, for sure. No, I'm judging me. It's fine. But
All
I'll
right.
give it an 8 because it did, music wise, acting wise, and the twists and turns that happened. It deserves an 8. I would say that.
All right. I like it. All right. So we're going to get into Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm going to take the lead on this one.
Please do.
So this is one of what I call the what ifs, right? So this is the fourth what if that Tarantino's ever done. And this is, what if Sharon Tate wasn't murdered by the Charlie Manson family? Which, is interesting. I find this movie it's not bad. It's well acted. I loved DiCaprio in just about everything he does. Brad Pitt generally brings it. I like Cliff Booth as a character. He's an interesting and fun character to follow. Again, if there's any character development, it's likely with DiCaprio's character, and it's not much. He becomes, a little more grounded by the end of the movie. Maybe drinking a little less, and on his way to what will be the second half of his career. But it doesn't feel like much changed. If anybody has character development, it's Sharon Tate, and it's only because literally the character gets to move on in life while the real person perished.
Right.
And that actually, both times I watched this movie, when I watched the Sharon Tate ending, I cry because I'm just like, this is literally sad because this is not what happened.
Yeah,
and
this is reality.
Right. And it's like, great that you want to destroy the Manson family in a scene, and I'm okay with that. It's much like in Inglourious Bastards,
Which was like brutal.
It was, and I love the brutality of it because if you're going to be brutal with people, be brutal with the Manson family, please.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of this. It's almost like he needed some vessel to give us that, and he wrote this entire story around that, and it's what this movie feels like to me. So I don't know. It's on the second viewing, nowhere near as good the second time. I actually kind of got bored this time because you don't care about Rick Dalton. I don't know. I just didn't give a shit about Rick Dalton, I guess.
Right.
I liked Cliff, but I didn't care about Rick. So yeah, I'm going to keep it short. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, like this is probably like I haven't seen all of Tarantino's films, but yeah, for me this one definitely is not my favorite. And like you mentioned, Snitty, there's like some stuff takes a little long to get there. Like the beginning feels slow to finally get some stuff. There's an interesting thing that's kind of like a reverse of what La was mentioning, where like you don't know to buckle up until it happens. Where this one, they does a really great build up, and it's at the ranch where you think, okay, you're buckling up because you think something like Dalton's about, or not Dalton, but Brad Pitt's character's about to find something fucked up, and so you're building up, and then you're like, oh, never mind.
He's just a dirty old guy that got a bunch of hippie girls.
Yeah, he builds up that expectation really well, and it's like, oh, okay, thank goodness. But you're like ready for Brad Pitt to throw down something, but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff with him in it. I do still have issue with the whole Bruce Lee scene where like Bruce Lee's family did too, which like I still am like, I get it's like the what if thing, and then that's where I try to like let my mind go, but still it's like
what, like him getting beat up? Is that what you mean?
Well, just he has an attitude problem in the movie. He's kind of a cocky asshole, and he got his ass kicked. All three of those things were something the family had to gripe with.
Yeah, like I feel like I feel like that says something about Tarantino too. Like, is that Tarantino's opinion of Bruce Lee? And he'd like use this as a way to like kind of say that. But I don't know. That one little thing aside, the actor did a great job as Bruce Lee, I thought. But yeah, there definitely wasn't like enough character development in this one. It does feel, I will say there wasn't a lot of like racial undertones with this one. There were some things that was like more subtle, where it's just like kind of iffy. But we didn't hear the N word like everything
a billion
times. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was just like, oh.
It was like a moment with Cliff talking about the Mexican guys, or
Yep.
you know,
Exactly.
a couple subtle things like that, which is still important
Yeah.
to note. But it also is,
Yeah.
there is still an element of it's the times. So if you
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
do
This is
any
the
of it,
60s.
it's
It's-
going to feel
yeah.
weird if there's none
Right.
of it, because that's
Not really if this is a what if.
No, agreed with the what
No,
if. Agreed.
I'm just
But I'm
saying,
saying
though.
when you do
Yeah,
period
yeah, yeah.
pieces about a time period and
No,
you
no, no, for
don't
sure.
do anything from that time period, it's like, where are we?
But
So it feels
also,
weird.
I'm a firm believer of film is a way for you to show what could be and not what
Sure.
is, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
So even if you're making something that takes place in the 50s, you don't have to show segregation. You can actually show a community that's well blended in together, because this is your vision for what you want this film to be.
Sure.
But if you want it to be like segregation, or however you want to slice it, then like you can do
Yeah.
that too. But I just think we should be.
It's one thing if it's like a true story,
right?
or something,
You know,
then yeah. But
but this is like a what if situation, which is why I felt like with the Bruce Lee thing, maybe that's what his what if is, because he's known to be a nice guy, he's known to have like to be great on set, however it is. So this is literally the reverse of what people think he is.
I mean,
but also
Bruce Lee was just so fast, like
you
Scary
couldn't.
Brad
fast.
Pitt's character would not even have time.
I don't care how big you are, you couldn't
Yeah.
stop.
He's
But
too
again,
fast.
this is a what if, so it's
Yeah.
like. But again,
know.
Tarantino's not really telling you like, well, this is a what if type of thing. So nobody's gonna look at it like that. It's
Yeah,
like
no, totally. Yeah,
So
the first time I saw it, I didn't see it that way.
people
Yeah.
were mad about that, but also when I watched that scene, I was like, it's Bruce Lee.
Like,
It like felt like
okay.
Bruce Lee was on screen. I got to give the actor that credit. Like,
No, totally.
the
Yeah, yeah,
cadence, the way
He
he
was great.
spoke, very
he did
Bruce
the
Lee.
1-inch punch. You think this white man is gonna throw him into a car? I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I did the second half of the scene with Kurt Russell and his wife Janet, and the way Janet's reacting, and how Cliff is just kind of like, sorry, y'all.
And did you recognize who Janet was?
No.
Zoe Bell
Yeah, Zoe Bell, who was
She's a
like
stunt woman.
she's a stunt woman.
Works with Tarantino. She was Uma Thurman stunt woman on Kill Bill.
Yeah,
That makes it even cooler.
and she was in the Grindhouse stuff.
Oh, okay.
She's in both of them actually.
With Kurt Russell, yeah.
Yep.
So that I love that she's in it with Kurt Russell.
I
as
don't
well.
think
That's great.
she's.
Yeah.
I don't think she's that great of an actor either. But I enjoy her. I enjoyed.
She was
her
good in that part, but
Yeah, she played
I loved her
Janet
in-
perfectly. Like,
No, I
Yeah.
loved her. I loved her in Death Proof. I think she did good
Yeah.
in Death Proof because she was kind of like just being herself. But because her accent is like so like like New Zealand,
totally. Yeah.
accent is like so strong that it's like I can never not see Zoe Bell when she does something.
Right.
So it's just because she's just yelling all the time. It's not like really like any nuance to her voice. She's just like
Yeah.
yelling. But that role required her to yell. So I'm
Exactly.
like,
Yeah. So
but see that
just be pissed.
this is why I like the Cliff Booth character, because like that whole sequence was literally just in his memory of he's like, oh yeah, I did this, and then he's like, oh
Right.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I shouldn't work there anymore. Like I just subtle, funny. I don't know. Brad,
Yeah, it was when
whatever
they
you
go
feel
back to
about
him on
Brad,
the roof. He was like, oh yeah.
he's a great character, a great actor, and sometimes a great character actor. I thought it was interesting that the shots that they got of him up on the roof were not digital. Those were definitely like Santa Ana, and like you could see the whole valley.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They got him on a
That's a
real
crane
roof.
shot.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. That's the kind of stuff I expect from a director like Tarantino. Give me some shots that are uncapturable unless you go out of your way to get these interesting shots.
Yeah.
La, did I ask you straight up yet what you thought of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, you just keep forgetting me. It's fine.
I'm so sorry.
Damn.
It's okay. I'll talk to Batsy about that. I'm fine. I'll just.
La.
What's up? I'll never rat you out. Don't do that. I'll never rat you out. No. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I prefer Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but anyway.
No, that's Robert Rodriguez. So it's interesting that you.
I know that's
Yeah.
why, because I love me some Robert. I love him.
I think he's the better director ultimately, even though his films aren't as acclaimed.
They're not, but I love him because Spy Kids all day. Like, stop playing with me. But anyway, talk about that later.
Even the El Mariachi trilogy is good.
No,
like,
for sure.
It.
Oh,
we need to do a Robert Rodriguez week. I'm just saying because I love me because we did quit and we need to do Robert. I'm just saying because I love me some Robert Rodriguez. But anyway, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. When y'all saying like a what if that really made me think because at the end where she survives, I was like, is she supposed to survive? I don't think she's supposed to survive.
Very much not.
But I was like, oh, I see what they're doing. And then you guys saying what if, it's like it just kind of like just honed in on that perspective. So I was like, okay, I get what they were doing. Wish they would have did it just a little bit better, because like she was barely in it for it to be a what if about her, even though it was like, even though I know it's like it bleeds into it, but it's kind of like you could have still had the same movie even if Margot Robbie wasn't in it. I felt like he just wanted her in the movie so he could put her feet on screen.
I agree with you. She is a
himself.
set piece in this movie.
Oh,
Like
totally.
I felt like she's a, and here's the thing too, it's Margot Robbie and she's beautiful, and you could put her in short skirts and little tight things and bras that push her boobs up, and she looks like a dreamboat. Like she looks amazing. I mean, you could probably put her in sweatpants and a t-shirt and she'll look exactly the same. But I'm just saying, like I felt like it. If you were going, Sharon Tate to me is the biggest name in this film, right? Like I don't know really.
When she was real, where the other characters are not.
Right. Not so like I just meant the biggest name in the sense of like you just know immediately who she is off the bat, like and I know we get invested in Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but like you say Sharon Tate, I'm automatically thinking of Manson family. I'm automatically thinking these things. So like you had those elements were like kooky and funny at times because they botched that whole thing with him coming to the house and stuff like that. And again, that's like a what if type of thing. So they were making it kind of funny, but I don't think I would have liked a little bit more of her in it than for her to kind of be like a throwaway character, just so we could like be in it more. Because it was just like it wasn't enough for me to know that that's my next door neighbor. Because in my mind, what you can see now is that like now that he got the invite to come over, they're all going to be friends. He's going to make a Roman Polanski movie, so his career is like back on track, right? His career is like right back on track because
100%.
He survived a thing, and he has a wife, and then they're neighbors, and it's gonna be so like you can see where the trajectory of his life is gonna go. I would have just liked a little bit more of her like through line within it, because mainly we just saw her doing little things. She watched herself on screen, and then
and the thing too is it does rely on the audience to know about the whole
exactly. And if you don't know about that, then you're not really going to be like
you're not like okay. I think you're not anticipating them like going to Sharon Tate's house.
I think that Tarantino banked on the Manson family being as notorious as Hitler, and that's it. Like yes, but no. Like no. Like Hitler is the most notorious and infamous person in our history. Like period.
It's like it's a lot of young people that. Even
no, totally.
This movie,
they never call out his name. They say his first name a couple times.
Right.
They keep calling him like Charlie. And it's like Charlie. Anybody can be Charlie.
Yeah,
like I'm just
Charlie. I know.
And then you see him once because he comes to the
exactly.
You see him once, and you don't even see Sharon like give him an eye in a way that makes you think like, wait a second, or
like
they don't give anything. So I really just felt like Tarantino wanted her in a short skirt. He wanted to see her feet, and so he was like, what's the best way I can see Margot Robbie's feet without telling her come to my room so I can see her feet?
Yeah. I have another theory. Yes, I agree with everything you just said, but I have another theory as to why we don't see much of her, but we also see her survive in the end. And I think it's because when Tarantino was young, he had a huge crush on Tate and wished she had made it through. And this was his almost like love story to her, like a love note to her. Like, I saved your life because I might.
It could have been better.
So I agree. Better, I'm just saying that's what I think it is. I think the reason that she's only in a little bit and only to kind of highlight her beauty and to highlight that this is his childhood crush that he's highlighting on screen and then saving her life like a hero, like the White Knight.
But I want him to highlight that more. I want that to be added to the story more, because actually that's actually compelling. I didn't know that, so that's actually
that's a guess. So, I don't know. Like I don't know if that's true.
I mean, maybe it just makes sense. But maybe it is, and I feel like if you love somebody, you don't shy away from them. If I wanted to make a movie about my mother, it's not gonna be about me and my brother for the majority of the movie, and then towards the end, two scenes with my mama.
Feet in there for some reason.
You feel me?
This movie is about Cliff Booth, in my opinion. This is Cliff Booth's movie. I love you, Mom. And
for real.
And Dalton and Tate are side characters to Cliff Booth's movie. So
it is Cliff Booth. It's definitely his.
No, it totally feels like a Cliff Booth.
It's definitely a Cliff Booth film. It's definitely a Leonardo.
I feel like we're with him.
But Margot Robbie is Margot Robbie, and for me personally, you have to give her things.
No, totally. Yeah.
About her,
you don't put Margot Robbie in there for no reason. If you're not gonna give her nothing, if you're just gonna make her like a pretty piece or a set piece, because the funny thing too is like, when they actually show Sharon Tate, they didn't try to do any
It's
like
Sharon
digital
Tate.
replacement.
Right.
It's Sharon Tate. Yeah.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that he kept the original like film, the original
Yeah.
like stuff in the
Right.
film so you could see her. But then also part of me was kind of like, Margot don't really look like Margot Tate. Like
Right,
Margot don't
yeah.
look like Sharon Tate. I was
Yeah.
like, and then that kind of threw me
Especially in that
off.
They tried to give
But then
makeup
when
on
they-
her to make her look that way, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
They tried, but like I feel like I've seen freaking.
I mean, it's Margot Robbie.
It's
Yeah.
Margot Robbie. But here's the thing too, Sharon Tate's beautiful. So I feel
No,
like
totally. Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like they could have done that a little bit better. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's 2018. It's a bigger budget.
Yeah.
But I do like when the fight scene came up and they interspaced the scenes in between, like her doing it with Bruce Lee and then like her doing it on screen. Like,
Yeah.
I like that part. So they actually kind of like showed Margot kind of like embodying Sharon, because up until this point she's walking around the street or driving a car like she's Sharon Tate, and I ain't never seen her do that. I don't know what Sharon Tate does. Like I don't know what she do on her day-to-day basis. So to me that was like one of the best scenes for me, was seeing Margot like in the guise of Sharon Tate, because they never record scenes Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate for me to kind of like get that. So just having that like scene was nice. But overall, I could have did without this film overall. But I was happy to see the
Yeah.
yeah.
I had to put that in the promo too, because like it just had to be in there.
You had to, because if you didn't,
it would be weird, because I think the tip scene is the most iconic and well-known scene from Reservoir Dogs. It was or some scene from Pulp Fiction that I would have.
That was perfect how you put them together though, when it was like the tip scene and he was like,
then you hear him say thank you at the last second before the.
I heard that too. That was really good.
I'm trying to like get better at like little J cuts and little subtle things.
Yeah, I was proud of that. But I don't know. This was the least one I liked.
How about now you've seen all Tarantino? So how do you feel about this stacked against all of his films?
Yeah.
This film against all of his films does not compare.
So this is your least of all of his films, the very least?
Of all of his films, this is 9 films. This is the 9th film. Like this.
Okay,
gotcha.
So you like Kill Bill better than this?
I love Kill Bill better than all his movies. Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, Kill Bill.
See, I like 2 better than 1 of the Kill Bill. If I had to choose
1 and 2
the 2
for me. Well, he say that he split them up in 2, but for him, he looks at it as one big movie.
It is. It really is.
For me,
but one's an action flick, and one is like a drama adventure almost, where she's going to like
Endgame. That's all it is.
Really is in a lot of ways. But before Infinity War, Endgame.
No, for sure. That's all it is. If you need like context, it's just Infinity War in Endgame. But I prefer. It's something about the story. It's like all the things that make Tarantino, he put in Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah, he even foot fetish for a lot longer in those movies.
No, for a lot longer. But you see, but it's like one of those things where it's like you see Pulp Fiction, you see Reservoir Dogs, you see like Django and Hateful Eight, and you see all that in Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 in my book. Like you see all the things that make him, he puts into Volume 1 and 2. Like to me, that was like a big labor of love for him, and you can tell. And I enjoy those 2.
She's old enough now; they could make a 3. Just saying.
No, Vivica A. Fox.
I heard a rumor that he had eventually wanted the girl that played, the daughter
Nikki,
to come back and kill.
Oh, he wants the original girl. That's cool.
Yeah, to come back and be a 20-plus-something-year-old that wants to go after Beatrix. So
I'm here for it because we've been waiting for that. Don't say something to me like if you still sour about it. I'll be waiting. If she
that could be his 10th and final film, and then we can just kind of turn the page on Tarantino and start making plays, right? You know,
I would love the original.
You guys know what his 10th film was going to be, though, right?
What?
Oh, he wants to do one about this movie. It's going to be called like The Movie Critic or something like that, and it's about a movie critic that reviewed like adult films, basically, that was kind of known. So that's what it's going to be about. Yeah, it's going to be set like, I think it's like a 70s set film also.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, again. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Oh, so sweetie, I just wanted to say, what's his name? Bryan Cranston he did say he was retiring, but then he pulled it back and he said he's pausing. So he's not retiring from acting. He said he's pausing from acting. So
but he's also moving out of the country, which To me,
I
whenever
don't blame
people,
him, man.
I don't blame him, but to me, when people leave the country,
Yeah.
it shows me that they have
little more committed.
privilege. It shows
Oh, yeah,
privilege
yeah.
to me. Most of us
No, it
can't,
does.
even if we wanted to.
Most of us can't. No, because if I had the money, I would too. I'd be like, I see how I come back to a movie
Yeah.
or something. But I'll pull a Tina Turner. I'll go to Switzerland or something. I'll go get my citizenship and just come back here, have a work visa. And
Canada's right there for you.
The United States.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
I know.
I don't want to go somewhere that's cold. It's cold.
I mean, it's not any colder.
I
Like,
know.
it's by the same lakes you're next to. Toronto.
okay.
It's right there.
It's also
No.
on fire. Everything.
I mean, I
Well,
wouldn't go to
that's true,
Switzerland anyway, but I would probably go honestly, I'd probably go to I don't know, Greece or Paris.
So
or
like
somewhere,
South Europe, Mediterranean.
or maybe like Germany or something like that. I would go somewhere. Just,
All right, let's rate it. Let's do it. How about you, Brian?
Okay.
All the movie things. What do you rate Once Upon a Time?
Yeah, it's a 7 for me.
7. Okay.
What about you, Snitty?
I gave it a much higher rating the first time I saw it, but watching it a second time usually tells you how good a film really is, because if you don't have the same enjoyment, it's generally not as good as you thought it was. So it's probably a 6.5. Not sure I'm going to watch this one again, just because at the end I'm just depressed for Sharon Tate and her friends and everybody that did die. It just makes me. It's not like Inglourious Bastards was like, yes, burn them all, where I'm like very excited. In this, I'm like,
No, for sure.
yeah, I liked watching the Manson family get theirs, but then I still am sad. So,
Great.
Anyway, how about you, La?
I'm a Mimic Bride. I'm gonna give it a 7 because I do feel like it's rewatchable, just not in this decade, like not right now. But I do think it's rewatchable. No, literally, like it's gonna be some time. It's rewatchable. It's not terrible. It's a lot of actors, like little actors in it that you didn't know that was in it. Like space, you got a future Academy Award winner.
I forgot Maya Hawke was in it.
What's his name? The boy who played
Emil
Tex,
Hirsch.
Elvis.
Yeah, Austin Butler.
Austin Butler, Emil Hirsch. Like you have so many.
Pacino, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah, Pacino.
And that's all you need from Pacino. You don't need much. You need to drop in, do a little sprinkle, a little magic, and then get on.
Or Dakota Fanning as
Dakota Fanning.
Oh,
Squeaky. She plays Squeaky, which is a role in the Manson
Bruce
family.
Dern.
Right.
Yeah, Bruce Dern. Oh, what's his name? Was supposed to play that role? What's his name? Oh no, what's his name, you guys? I'm crying.
But he is in this movie.
But he is in this movie.
If I could physically hurt you, I really would.
Oh yeah, Timothy Oliphant shows up as a cowboy while he was doing
Timothy Oliphant,
all his cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
What was he like? Oh my god, I can't. If I remember, I'll put it in there. But another actor was supposed to play him, but Burt Reynolds, I believe, was supposed to play the ranch guy.
Oh, George.
Okay.
Yeah, but he passed away.
Right.
Like 3 weeks before they shot. Like he passed away. So he was supposed to. Burt Reynolds was supposed to be. I believe it was Burt Reynolds supposed to be the.
Yeah.
It did feel like the kind of movie where everybody was like, "We get to work with Quentin," and they just jumped in.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like.
Totally.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, so many people was in this movie. Like Danny Strong was in this movie. Tim Roth was in this movie, but they got cut.
Oh,
towards the final.
They were not in the final cut.
They wasn't in the final cut. Like, but they both filmed scenes and stuff like that for it. Yeah.
So it does sound like we are going to have Ray on next week's show, and we will be doing our Pride Month celebration film trio. The films are going to be Moonlight, But I'm a Cheerleader, and Kinky Boots. So 3 LGBTQ plus IA plus positive films, and or directed by. So we'll be doing that. And then I believe we're going to have 2 more episodes after that for the rest of the year. One of them will be another horror episode because we haven't done horror in a while. We're due for some A24 horror, I think. And Brian, you said Bodies you saw, but you have thoughts on.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an interesting film to do on the panel. I think I want to see how she breaks, because I think you and I
never seen it.
We break opposite ways, and she'll be.
We do, but I've never seen Bodies. So
awesome, and I do have it, so you'll be able to watch it. And then we have several other A24 we can talk about, or just other horror. But I do have a horror TikToker that I'm going to invite on that episode if I can't get hunting
cool.
season
Is
to show.
that Josh?
No, because Josh has
okay.
been very
Hunting
busy,
season.
and he's so we'll see. But it might be better just to plan for October with Josh and like really bring him in for an episode or two.
It works. It works. Is October? Will October be like full horror like every?
Yeah, that's what we did last year and the year before. So
okay, so
that's my plan, is to always do like 4 weeks of horror. But because I'm a big horror fan, I like to still intermix it through the year.
Because, but so is Betsy, so I think that's why you do it. Really,
it's like, both of us. It's both of us, but
it's a gift to Betsy. Oh, October, just
October and July, right?
Yeah, it's just for her.
Anyway, so this has been our approach to Quentin Tarantino. You won't find that we love or hate him. He's just a director that we'll criticize or say we like good stuff about. So not and Josh. Even if I love you, I'll still... Josh, Haunting Season.
And I'll just as much as I love directors, I love actors, I love it all. I'll criticize them all.
Mm-hmm.
You're not perfect. You're not perfect all the time. Neither am me. Oh, excuse me. Neither am I on my acting days. I'm not perfect all the time.
I don't worship at the altar of Tarantino at all. Like
no,
a lot.
I don't worship at nobody's altar. Honestly, I do like you. Then I'll be like, but you kind of slipped on this one. So But I'm still a fan, but you kind of slipped. You know?
And then when you become the person that we all hear about that did awful things, we don't like you anymore. So just, keep your nose clean.
Yeah, exactly.
Make good movies the best you can, and we'll give you a fair shake. That's
like I almost feel like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop with Tarantino on that stuff. Like,
the other foot to drop.
Like,
sorry.
Honestly, I feel like at this point,
no pun intended.
Everybody knows about that foot fetish, and he's been loud and proud about it. I
mean, everybody has their thing. There's nothing wrong with having a foot fetish.
Right.
It's more just we don't want a foot fetish with you, is what it boils down to.
Exactly. I don't.
It is a problem having a foot fetish if you're bleeding it into your movies.
Well, no, because these are his movies, and if he gets consent from the actress or the actor, then
do you think they asked? Do you think he even asked him to say
Deacons? That's true. Aina is correct. Yeah, I do worship at the altar of Deacons.
No, very true. That is very true. Only Deacons.
Deacons lives rent free in your head, is what it boils down to.
Yes, exactly.
I really hope Deacons doesn't come out with a scandal.
Man, I'll be broken.
That's gonna be so. We came out with a scandal.
There are some actors, man, that I swear if they come out, I might not watch movies anymore.
Right.
If somebody was like Kevin Smith that did SO, I'd be like, "Fuck, man, I'm out of here. I can't do this."
Honestly, at this point, I'll watch the stuff he done up until that point, because it's just some stuff that I do enjoy and I do like. This is my standpoint. Damn it, I had something else to say. I can't remember, but I love you guys. You guys are amazing.
We love you too. We should cut the show. We are going way over just to chat, so we will be back next week.
It's not way over. 7 minutes isn't way over, but we'll be back next week. So don't forget to follow us on all social media, you guys. We appreciate the love and the support. We appreciate it all, always.
Keep your feet clean.
And I still want to dance in a Tarantino movie. Like, I still want to dance in a Tarantino. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. This was the last. Sorry, this was the first film in Tarantino's history that was not produced by the Weinstein Company because of the.
Yes, it was a Sony film, which I thought was interesting.
It was a Sony film.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about it.
Have a great night, all. Have a great
Bye, guys.
night.